Hello and welcome to the Weekly Scroll Podcast brought to you by the Adventure Archive. My name is Ryan.
And I'm Thane Many Moons.
Ooh, that's a good one. Today we are going to be going over Vaults of Vaarn and primarily focusing on the new Omnibus edition put out by where is it? Games Omnivorous right there. Yeah. You know what? Yeah, it is a very good looking book. Yeah, I'm gonna say yes to that. It's textured. It has this beautiful texturing on it. When we get to the PDF, you'll see that they put the texture into the PDF, but it's got this like what is it called when it's printed in embossing? Of a whole texture across the entire book. It's really nice. And I love Games Omnivorous, but I am not a fan of the way parts of Europe write their
oh, that's right. It's flipped,
the spine.
Right?
It's different. Yeah, it's flipped. I'm not going to say it's wrong. I'm just going to say they do it differently.
Right.
Because how I would imagine the spine to be is if you lay the book down on the table and turn it, you would read it. But with this, if you lay the book down on the table face up and turn it, the spine is upside down. So it's opposite of every other book on my shelf, besides the other ones that are also from parts of Europe.
Just put all those together.
Yeah, I could do that, but that would defeat my whole system that I have.
If you're watching,
there's a
behind
system.
Ryan.
Yeah, there is a system. So this is the Omnibus edition. We've talked about this just a second ago. Games Omnivorous put it out. This is from Leo Hunt. It is a gorgeous, like very blue. This is a blue fucking blue. Is what I'm saying.
It's interesting, and we're going to kind of get into the differences between Ryan's physical edition and the digital that we're going through, because the blue on that is way bluer than the digital editions. But it's, I think, such a beautiful color. You know,
it is. It's a gorgeous color. I'm actually going to kick real quick to the physicals page.
Do it, bro. Do it.
Oh, that of course got adjusted a little bit when I redid it. Yeah,
look at me. I'm out of the window
today. You are out of the window, and I'm out of the window. We're gonna just kill some air here real quick while I chat about literally nothing as I just fix some windows.
I would like to say that while you're fixing that, this is such a me game. We kind of talked about this before we got on. Like, this is a weird science fantasy, like truly genuinely odd game, and I love this. We're gonna go through this today, and we're gonna go through the first section together, build a character, and then Ryan and I divided up the rest of the book to kind of talk about our favorite parts. But the roll tables in this are a great odd fucking weirdo roll tables, and the adventures in the back were really cool as well. Look at it. I'm like watching the screen freak out.
It's fine, it's whatever. So, I just still feel like I'm blurry in OBS, but it bugs me. So this is the actual version right here, or the Omnibus version. But prior to the Omnibus version, there were multiple zines, right? And honestly, so I have all three. This is zine number one.
I bet you have all three.
Oh God, I have. Yeah. So the first
one
has
this
like
zines?
Sometimes you can find them. I don't think they're printed anywhere, but I know Igloo Tree carried them. You might be able to find them on like All the Problems in the World, but like you would have to you would find them from somebody third party and everything like that. That's what you would need to do. But Vaults of Vaarn 1 has this light blue with this kind of like purple and pink, or like pinkish and orange aspect to it. Number 2 was a very like purpley blue with some light blue and some orange on the back. Really, really beautiful. Number 3 had this like really vibrant yellow for the zine, and the Fa Nomad on the back in like bright, vibrant colors. I also have the adventures for it.
Nice.
With the bandit on the front there.
That's a cool one.
And then I was also able to find the cassette tape that they put out for Varn.
Classic. It's not like DIY art punk unless you have a cassette tape to go with it, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Do you have a cassette player, Ryan?
You know what's funny? No.
How many cassettes do you have?
well over double digits.
Yeah, I'm gonna say,
but not for lack of not wanting one. I've just literally been hunting for. I'm like, if I'm gonna get one, I want to get one. You know what I mean? Like, I want a cassette player that really makes me feel like I'm listening to like my random fucking weird ttrpg tapes. So I've been digging, and Amazon's not really doing it for me, but we'll get there. We'll find one. And then we'll see how it goes. So
hey man, your birthday is only a couple months away. You never know.
You know what? We'll see. So we're getting into it. My Adderall is starting to kick in, and I'm starting to focus a little bit. Been under the weather a couple of days, starting to feel better. But we're going to start with Vaults of Vaarn. Here we go. So once again, as I said, the embossing that's on the cover of the book is actually this like light blue on the cover of the PDF, which I think is a great touch.
Yeah, totally. I like that it has the same texture on the digital. It feels very cool.
Yeah, it's really nice. And then once we get into the book itself, it is writing and art from Leo Hunt. Design and layout from Guilherme Gontijo, who has done a lot of stuff and is really fucking good at what they do. And then Andre Navoa, who is basically Games Omnibus. They this is our second Games Omnibus in a row, because Master was put up at Games Omnibus as well. So yeah, a lot of Geo
stuff. Good stuff.
They do fucking listen. We've said this. Anything that drops on the Games Omnibus store, I will snatch up, like sight unseen, because I know it's going to be it's going to be amazing, and B, it's going to be short print. So the fact that like Mouse Rider got as many prints as it did is surprising. I think they're talking about maybe doing one more box set print. But other than that, if you didn't find any of the previous stuff that they put out that is now sold out, you're looking at third party or eBay, baby, because that's about the only place you're going to get stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this is Leo Hunt. Leo Hunt has done some really, really amazing stuff. I have some other things from them on the shelf back here. But Varn is really kind of their big thing, their go-to. They have the website for the Patreon is really set up to support mostly Varn stuff. And I love that. I love when people have their game and really just go hard on it. You know what I mean? Like I know that we talked about before, this game is really reminiscent of the Electrum Archive. And I love what Emil Bovin is doing with the Electrum Archive. Derf was amazing, but it feels like that's what their thing they're really digging into is the Electrum Archive, and that's really fantastic to like create something you really love, have a setting for it that you really love, and then you just keep like adding more to it is fantastic, and I really love that.
Yeah, it's definitely got that same kind of like weird science fantasy kind of feel. But we were talking about this. This does feel different, and I love this. And I think one of my favorite art pieces actually is coming up almost immediately right after the table of contents.
We'll skip to the table of contents and go straight to the art piece then. Which one is it? Is it the rhino guy?
It's the rhino carrying the fish. And like, because why? what? And like this game has so many like oddity moments. Like we're gonna go to the roll tables there, like I said, and we'll touch on them. And some of the options are like really cool, and you're very adjusted for them. And like you'll be like, yeah, I've heard this stuff like that before. And then they'll really just come out left field, and you'll be like, okay, sure. And I love that. I want my players to have a weird time. So
yeah. It definitely has. It's definitely weird. It's definitely weird. Like it's weird. I would put it in the same general like kind of like bubble-ish as like Troika and Electrum Archive, but a little bit closer to the Electrum Archive. And I also love, and these are parallels, not like copies or anything, but I do love the parallels to the Electrum Archive too, and that Leo Hunt does all the art and all the writing, because fantastic artist. I love the style. I think it fits really well, as Emil Bovin does the same thing with the other one. But as you said, it is different. It is a little weird. And yeah, so let's get into it. First we get to the table of contents page. Let's say right off the bat, there's no bookmarks in the zine. Oh no, there are bookmarks in the zine.
There's no hyperlinks.
We've talked about those. There's 0 hyperlinks across the entire PDF, which sucks. I really wish it did. It is definitely long enough to really be helpful to have that. And there's definitely sections in it that have like the inline, like go to page this, that would be incredibly helpful to have. Also, let's just get right into our knocks right off the bat. Blue and very light bluish gray on white.
I know, it's funny. It's funny because I know you showed me the physical book, which I'm going to order on Friday when I get paid because they restocked it. But it seems like it's a lot easier to read in the book. Like it's darker, like all around is darker. And kind of see, not really focusing all that well, but let's just believe us. If you're watching this, believe it. Believe it. That's my Nindo, bro. The book is darker, right? Like the text is easier to read.
It's so much easier to read, and I know that's part of the printing process, but
it's one of those things where it's not that it's unreadable. Like it's not illegible. You can read it, but I often talk about like how pleasant it is to read something. Like Black Sword Hack's the most recent one I can think of. It was very pleasant to read. It had that off-white background, black text, very easy to read. This is not the same like pleasant. Like I'm not like burning my eyes on it or anything, but it's the text is very light.
Yes, and not only that, the font chosen for whatever reason in the PDF compared to the printing is also more difficult to read. Like the narrow bits in parts like the bottom of the let me go over here. Like the bottom of the P here, it makes it more difficult to read, or like the top of the E. Like
I wonder if that's just because it is lighter. It's just made all the like end bits harder to read, while like it's faded out a little bit.
I mean, I guess, and also the font size is very small on this book. It's like 7.5 or 8 or something like that. It is very
I had to close up a lot more. Usually with these books, like I don't always like zoom in super hard, but even on my like 3-panel, I'm like zoomed pretty far into it.
Yeah, well, I read it on my iPad a lot, mostly because on my screen I had to make it so big that it's just I know there's a lot of people that like reading the physical, and I enjoy reading the physical, but if I'm really like in this to like read it for the review and stuff, to me I can go a lot faster than I can flip, and like with the digital tools generally you can navigate faster than you can the physical book when you have hyperlinks and things like that. This one I put on my iPad instead to read it more like a book, and I zoomed it column by column and actually turned it sideways because the color made it more difficult to read, the font made it more difficult to read, and just in general. And I also, although I think that this is pretty for the table of contents page, it is not my favorite table of contents. It's a little
confusing to read. The table of contents, because like, so listen, if you were listening, like normally a table of contents has the like header, like chapter, right? And then each individual line going down has whatever that is, and then the page number, whatever it's referring to, like the subchapter. This one has the subchapters lined up one after, like subchapter, page number, then the next one on the same line until it runs out of room, and then line breaks down to create a new line. So they're all kind of mushed together instead of being laid out like long ways, essentially.
So instead of each one on a separate line down, the whole thing is written out like one big sentence with just like a
there's dividers. There are dividers
between.
Yeah. I mean, I've adjusted to it now, but the first time we opened it up and we were talking the other day, I was like, and then listen, we're gonna go in right now, but because this game's so fantastic and there's not gonna be like a lot of critiques. We're gonna talk about how much we like this game mostly, but I have one more gripe. And we talked about this the other day. And I actually ran into a situation where I was like, well, that's annoying. The bookmarks. So every subheading on every chapter is bookmarked, except in generating your own setting, which is pretty much all role tables, right? But I went to go refer to a role table, and I could not use the bookmark to go straight there. I had to use the bookmark to go to the top of it and then scroll it was half the way in, which, if sitting here reading casually is not a big pain, but if I'm sitting at my table and I'm like, okay, hold on, guys, I got to roll up something real quick because we're doing something that's randomly generated, as I'm wont to do. Kind of like, it's like, why? I mean, you bookmarked all the other like subheadings, like just bookmark these as well. And that's the end of my critiques as far as this part goes. So.
Yeah, I think the layout, and we're going to continue through. I think it's gorgeous. I think the font all the way through is like kind of small. And as we said, but like critiques right off the bat for a little bit of like the later layout stuff really comes down to some like readability stuff.
Yeah.
And to kind of sum it all up, the table of contents is written in a weird way that is it's not necessarily confusing, but it's slightly more difficult than if like
it's not conducive to quick use.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's reduction of usability, right? The font size in the PDF makes it more difficult. The font color in the PDF makes it a little bit more difficult to read. And then that's so basically there's a reduction in readability in the PDF. I mean, the book too has a lot of these issues, but just the fact that it's darker makes some of that stuff go away.
Right.
And there is a bookmark in the physical, which is nice to have.
Nice.
But some lack of hyperlinks, some bookmarks that would be more helpful to have. The table of contents is a little bit condensed in a way that's not conducive to usability. The font's a little bit small. The color is a little bit hard to read. All of that comes down to some just general...
And that's our show, guys. We'll see you next week.
Yeah. But as we said, that's pretty much the end of the critiques because the rest of this is fucking amazing. So jumping into it, we'll go into... we'll go into... there's an acknowledgement section here that talks about some touch points, which is Book of the New Sun and Dune and Hyperion. All of that just blast right in the face. Obviously, even Dune.
I've never read any of those.
All right. And then a lot of the game is right. I love Book of the New Sun. I don't think you've read Book of the New Sun, have you?
I have not read Book of the New Sun, but Dune and Hyperion are two of my favorite novels. So
Dune is fantastic. I love Book of the New Sun. I will say, for anyone that tries to read it, it is dense prose.
I have heard that, and that's why I'm like, I'm good. You know, also in this, so he talks about video game references, and he references the Caves of Cud or Caves of Quud, however you want to say it, which is a absolutely amazing game and like kind of a deep cut. I don't know a lot of people who know that game, but it is a fantastic game. I love that game. So Hyperlight Drifter is also amazing, and I've never played Rain World, but it's on my list as like a Metroidvania that I really want to look at too. Rain World?
It's a world that is very rainy.
That's a really concise. Okay.
I mean, when you see that, when you see it, you're gonna go, oh, okay, cool. So anyway, so Vaults of Vaarn is like 80% of it is, at least as far as the core rules are, it's a knave hack. Like it's like unabashedly a knave hack, and like every zine and every part, it has this whole section where it really talked about knave and Ben Milton and some of the original texts from that. So it is a hardcore knave hack, one of my favorite knave hacks. I really enjoy it. And it says it also lends to Yoon Soon, which is one that they redid that, and I backed the Kickstarter recently. Excited for that. Into the Odd, which I mean, of course, when we get to parts, and also Troika, White Hack, and Raquel. So, and then some more acknowledgments to some people like Eco, Perplexing Runes, Yohai, and whatnot. Here. Yeah, PR for sure. So, basically, this is based on a lot of awesome stuff. And a lot of awesome people. So good job, Leo, for that. So getting into the actual stuff now. There is a Welcome to Varn section. I was not going to read this section, but I've read it multiple times and was like, you know what? I do think that this is a section that should be read. So this really sets the entire game up in such a good way, it's hard to skip it. So Welcome to Varn. The sun is dying, and the wreckage of countless eons litters the parched wastes of Varn, the desolate country that common folk call the Blue Ruin. It is said that these sky-colored sands hide the graves of the autarchs, have swallowed the buried arcologies in which the true seed of humankind was preserved through the Great Collapse, conceal the forgotten crypts of memory, decaying crystalline lattices of ancient ego engines upon which the dusk blue dunes encroach without pity. From the new hegemony to the south come drifters and dreamers, desecrators of the tech tombs that lie sunken beneath the azure wastes. Light years overhead, Aurum-sailed ships ply their tender routes between the spheres, and miles below a pilgrim's feet, strange wombs are kindled once more with a life undreamed of. These are the hinterlands where humanity's great works have fallen to everlasting decay, where machine and animal and fungus think to crown themselves our equal. The Thaddosands, where new beasts hunt proudly with boots upon their hind paws, and chrome priests chant unbending binary devotions to their nameless synthetic god. Only the desperate or the mad would seek to make a life here, to roam the blue desert in search of the secret vaults of Vaarn.
Nice.
It's so good. The writing is good.
It's so
Leo's
good.
writing throughout this whole thing is so good. It's descriptive without being verbose, which I really enjoy. And it says it's a sci-fi fantasy game inspired by what we said before, Dune Hyperion, Book of the New Sun. You feel a lot of the Book of the New Sun stuff in like the future past shit. Like technology was really advanced, and then like it went to shit like 1,000 years ago, and people find it, it feels almost magical. It is
how'd they make the pyramids, man? It's just like real life. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. And I will say, like, the last kind of layout critique I had before we get into this, the whole thing is very blue, and I really think that the whole point is drawing from like the vast blue desert of the entire world. But I gotta be honest, like, I really I wish there was a little bit more than that, because I do sometimes feel like I am lost in a blue desert while reading this. And I do feel almost like there was a loss when this book was created. I feel like this feels almost more like an academic tome, where it's kind of like when you compare it to the original three, look how bright and colorful and fun. I feel like the weird shines more in the individual zines. You know what this feels like? It feels like the zines were kind of like a band's first album, like MCR's first album that was like weird and kind of like not super refined. And then the newest one feels like MCR's third album, you know what I mean? Where it's like super refined, very palatable, but loses a little bit of the weirdness and the strange. I wish there was a little bit more color. I wish there was a little bit more vibrancy to it. I wish there was a little bit of the zine covers in this, as opposed to this kind of like almost monochromatic, like blue across everything. So I don't know. That's my last bit of that. Yeah, the last, continuing on here, the sun is going out. It is the end of history. Everything could possibly happen has already happened and faded to dust. No two sources agree on the details of Varn's ideolated past, and in truth, such debates hold little significance. However, there are some facts that every resident of Varn can agree upon. And I love when settings do this. It's like bullet pointed or like numbered.
Here are the things that are empirically true. Whatever else is whatever, like however you and the table decided to be.
And then, so Varn is a sky blue desert littered with the ruins of the far future. Varn is chiefly inhabited by true kin, which are non-mutated humans, Cacogin, Synths, new beasts, and Micromorphs. We'll get into what those are. The sun is a dying red giant. It won't go out in a human lifetime, but Synths have reason to be concerned. Varn is both archaic and futuristic. Think sword fights inside the wrecked husks of ancient spaceships. To the south lies a new hegemony, a proud, expanding true kin empire. Theoretically, the hegemony rules Varn, but they have little presence besides a few fortified border towns. Nanomachines are inside everything, and it's normal to see wild animals with cameras growing out of their flesh or humans with parasitic artificial limbs. Nobody can agree on the cause, but there was a great collapse which destroyed most of the human civilization. Before the Great Collapse, the planet was dominated by the Autarchy, a dictatorship enacted by a dynasty of genetically modified god kings. And before the reign of the Autarchs, the Earth was ruled by AIs called the Titans. Something happened to them, and they were overthrown, but the details are lost to history. And finally, most importantly, Varn is never the same twice. The fall of the dice determines how your version of the setting develops. Readers and players alike are encouraged to make Varn their own. And that's really, until you get past the rule section, that is, in my opinion, a perfect amount of pre-game lore to get you into the game and then get going.
One page. God, I love a one-page lore page. You know, like
it's so
perfect.
good.
I know everything I need to.
Yeah. And then after you get through the basic rules, character creation, all that kind of stuff, you start getting into adventure locations and lore bits and things like that. And I really enjoy the way that the zine is set up, or the book is set up, and the way that it combines the three zines. And we'll talk about that again a little bit more later. So, getting into the basic rules, 1.1. I like the 0.1 stuff. It's a very like Troika Numinous Edition version.
I love me some numbered. chapters. So
yep. If only it was also hyperlinked, so you could reference them easily. So we're basically going to be reading Knave here. Like, I pulled up Knave again, really dug through Knave, and a lot of this, with some tiny tweaks, is straight up just Knave.
Okay.
With a little bit simplified, taking it a little bit of the OSR, like kind of like float back to like the more rules dense D&D aspects of it. Knave keeps a lot of that, and this drops a lot of that off, but the core is the same. So 6 abilities.
A respectable choice, you know?
Yeah, for sure. 6 abilities here, and I do like what they did here. We talked about this before. And I will say, I was reading this on my left monitor, and it was much harder to read, although darker. When I put it on my central monitor, this is much easier to read here. I do like this little touch that they put in where it says the word strength, but the STR is darker, is the dark blue they use, and the ENGTH is that like light grayish blue, so that it without saying it, it tells you that STR is abbreviation for strength. Clever, cute, I love it, smart. It's a nice little touch that I really enjoyed a bunch. So there's strength, which we're not going over. You know what strength is. You know what dex is. You know what constitution is. You know what intellect is. You know what psyche is. There are a little bit of things in here, like it says like how many item slots you can have based on your con. We'll get to that later. Psyche, though, a little bit different. I will say that it's not a wisdom; it's psych. It uses used for saves requiring perception and intuition. Basically, it is wisdom, but it associates with mystic gifts, which we'll get to, and then ego is used for basically will instead. So slight alterations to the core 6 stat names to fit a little bit of the setting more, and I enjoy that.
Yeah, me too.
Yep. Saves. If a character attempts something where the outcome is uncertain and failure has consequences, one of my favorite lines ever in ttrpgs, you make a save, add the bonus and relevant ability to a d20 roll. So again, Knave, there is no roll under, roll over, or whatever. It is a flat 15 for everything, which is fine. Yeah. It's Knave. It is a way to play the game. I don't have a plus or minus to that.
I like, you know, I don't love roll over usually in other ways where it's like a DC. But this, where it's a flat 15, you just I feel great about this, you know?
Yeah. I mean, we both prefer D20 roll under.
Absolutely.
The thing I hate the most about D20 roll over is the kind of like whateverness of like having to pick the DC on the fly. Like, what makes you say it's a 16 versus a 15? Like, that annoys me.
Absolutely.
So I'd rather have something like
the
this.
15, where it's like, this is what it is. Like, okay, perfect, great, thank you. I don't have to, because I feel like a lot of times I make those decisions, especially when I was running D&D a lot, and then afterwards be like, that was not maybe like an 18, you know? Like,
yes.
It was a 17, you know? Or 16. Yeah.
And we've talked about before, like if someone rolls like a 15 and then they get like a 14, a lot of games don't have anything for that. Besides, but then, when you read something like Himbos that has that kind of like mixed success scale, that's a better way to do it. Yeah. But with this one, it being a flat number, kind of in like the way that like Shadow of the Demon Lord does, like a flat 10. I like it. I'm fine with it because you as soon as you roll, you know exactly what you're going for all the time. It's fine. Anyway, the critiquing Knave here, but it is Vaults of Vaarn. If the save is opposed by another character, you don't go over 15. It's an opposed check. You know what those are. Right. If there are situational factors that have significantly easier or harder, advantage and disadvantage, 2d20s, you know how that is. Take the highest and the lowest. I'm going to cruise through this too because this is just like the basics. Item slots, you have them. We'll get to them in a little bit. Mystic gifts, like you have them, right? Varn is a world where religion, science, and magic are indistinguishable. Devout faith, mastery of arcane nanomachines, and abuse of psychoactive fungus or mental mutation can grant the mind uncanny influence of the material world. All such powers, abilities, and boons are referred to as gifts. See page 22. Not hyperlinked. It'd be better if it was. And then it basically says each mystic gift uses a slot. The gifts cost HP, which is determined by the referee once a player describes what they want to accomplish. The baseline of a gift is D6 HP. I love that.
Yeah, me too. Very cool. A trade-off for using magic. Yeah.
Well, and it says Mystic Gifts take an item slot, and the reason it represents the burden whose unnatural powers exert the burden the unnatural powers exert on the body of the wielder. I love how that's abstracted. And
I do really like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And it automatically tells me right off the bat too that HP is not simply the number of times you can get hit. It's more than that. It's
another currency.
Yeah, but it's also it's your ness as a person. It's how many times you get hit, but also how much burden you have. Also, like how much magical energy that you have to expend as well. Like it's an abstracted, just your general overall, like the idea of what hit protection is in Into the Odd, but it just uses hit points because
what I like about
easier.
this the most is that, like, if you take this to its logical endpoint, that means I could cast a spell so powerful that it could kill me.
Yeah. I mean, it could definitely take a 0. Yeah.
What a fucking cool moment to have, you know? Like, yeah, I'm gonna give my all for this. It's like, okay, well, it's gonna be 5d6.
Yeah. I love that, and I would allow that. Like, there's nothing that says that you can't, and I think it's perfect. I love that. I love when there aren't like blood mages are some of my funnest shit because of this. It uses a lot of your like HP, and you can absolutely hurt yourself more than helping other people. So I really like that. Combat gifts always hit their target, dealing damage of 1 dice size higher than the user paid in HP, plus a character side bonus. There's an example here, which is great. Paying D6 HP results in a damage of D8 plus your side bonus. Easy peasy. Same ratio was applied to healing. And then there's also various rules for the duration of certain things. And it also talks about mystic gifts. They are not gained by levels. They are found by various ways of expanding your mind, like brain surgery and drugs and stuff. So really, really enjoy that.
That's like maybe the best part of the mystic gifts thing. It's like, it's getting them as a journey. It's not like, oh, I level up so I get a new thing. It's like, no, you're going to go on an adventure. You're going to get surgery and a third eye implanted. You're going to find a rare blue crystalline fungus and have to snort it. That's like, that right there is a whole like mini arc, you know?
Yep, absolutely. I mean, that's exactly what it is. And the same thing with the relics, because like you're both the Exotica, the relics, the mystic gifts, all of those things, as you said, since they're not part of advancement at all, every single one of them can be a reward or a quest or a consequence or just ways to create adventures without having to prep whole stories and shit, which you shouldn't do. But it is a red button for characters to go hunt, which is great. And Exotica, they are strange relics of the many extinct civilizations that preceded your own. Exotica may take the form of weaponry, clothing, tools, or bizarre constructions. So this is where I feel like there's a big slap of Into the Odd into this. Finding weird stuff.
Right. Yeah. It's a great thing to take from it. So
absolutely. And when a new item of Exotica is found, the referee must make an int save in order to puzzle out what the device does. If the save is failed, it is assumed the PCs cannot understand it, but you can go take it to settlements and whatnot to try to figure that out. Advancement, again, it gives me a little bit of Into the Odd. You know, I was going to say Mouse Rider, but Mouse Rider is an Into the Odd hack, and this is a Knave hack. So it's interesting to do an Into the Odd hack followed by a Knave hack, because I feel like as far as like the quote-unquote NSR, the post-OSR is concerned, these are two of the primary games that people use to hack.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I feel like this one is like 80% Knave and like 20% Into the Odd, and I really like that mix.
Yeah, I think it's working really well for it.
Yeah. So as you adventure Varn, you grow from novices into seasoned explorers. You start at level 1 and you go up from there. But the way that you advance is exchanging Exotica at settlements or oases. Trading in an item of Exotica will automatically raise a PC to their next level. A PC's maximum level is 10. When a PC level increases, they get 3 points to allocate to an ability of their choosing. Abilities may never be raised higher than 20/+10. We'll get to that. And then they roll a d8 and add the result to their new maximum HP. So there's a thing here. So it says a single piece of Exotica can only be used to raise the level of one PC, not the entire party. This will create important decisions for the party, as most likely only one PC will be able to level up at a time. If the referee wants a faster campaign, you can do all of it. I also do really enjoy the layout section here, where it is these blocks of important text, as opposed to, like, I don't know, bolding it or something. I think it's a good choice to also break up the text a little bit. It's just a really good part of the layout. And also, I'm going to be honest, the white on this dark background is, in my poor old eyes, a lot easier to read. So I really enjoyed that as well. So when we look at advancement and really dig deep into it, there's a couple aspects of it that are really, really interesting, right? So it basically comes down to the core of XP for gold, right? It's relics, but it is
stuff. But like, and listen, I love XP for gold.
It's such a good system.
It's so much better. And it's funny because, like, genuinely, I've only played a handful of games of all the games I played that do that. And God, it's just so much better. And I like this. Personally, I like right now, I like describe my own table at home as an asymmetric table. Like if you leave and they've leveled up, like, and you come back, like, you're wherever you were. And you can level up in like the same amount of time or the same amount of like gold. Like, I love that. It's like, yeah, you know, you got one Exotica. So one of y'all is going to level 2. Gonna have to find more. Yeah, super into it.
So it's interesting because it feels like a simplified version of Into the Odd / what we just did with Mouse Rider, where basically when they would find stuff, they would bring it back and they would get points based on the value and shit, right?
Well, so Into the Odd is when you go on your first like adventure and come back successfully. You're a professional at that point. So that's your next tier up. And after that's like 2 or 3 more. So it's less about the stuff that you bring back and more about the success of the actual venture.
Okay, so then Mouse Rider was very like, unless I'm completely bullshitting about what we just did, I'm pretty sure it's like the value of the stuff you bring back adds XP and stuff. I know we immediately forget, even though we did it last week.
I know, it's funny. We've read almost 100 games at this point. So yeah, probably, maybe,
it's crazy.
You know?
But what I like about this is that this also says that Exotica, like, so it's one of those things where, like, reading into the rules of the game, the whole point of this game is kind of in an Into the Odd-ish kind of way, but this adds a little bit more impetus to that. It's an exploration game, because the whole point is to go find the Exotica and bring it back, and that is how you level up, right? But with the nade aspect put on top of it, instead of the Into the Odd, everything always hits, combat super quick way, there is definitely a much more of a combat aspect to it, which I really, really enjoy. So like we said before, it's a really nice mix, because I really enjoy Into the Odd, but I've said this numerous times, like, it's fun to play, but it is definitely more of like a story adventure game for me, because
absolutely.
Combat is so quick and there's so much more of a focus on stuff. This is really interesting, and I also do really enjoy that it's super simplified. One Exotica, one level for one person, and then go to it some more. Really, really like that a lot. It's good. It's clean. It's good. It's streamlined. It's good. Yeah.
Water, Ryan.
Water. There's water. It exists. It's hard. The world is a desert. Yeah. Yeah, so basically a ration is abstracted to like water and food or whatever. A normal person has to drink 1 ration of water a day. Some people, like synthetics, have more or less, but they still need it because they have to cool down like their ego boards and ego engines and stuff like that. But long story short, you start being able to carry 3, and then if you don't have it, you're deprived, and if you're deprived for more than 3 days in a row, you die. So water is an important thing to have. And barter.
Shout out Doom, you know?
Right, I mean, it's you gotta have that water. Merchants will usually merchants usually trade an item slot worth of stuff for an item slot's worth of stuff. This is one of my favorite lines in the whole book. There is no set list of prices for goods in Varn. Good job, Leo. Love that shit. The deals characters can strike will depend on context, the merchant's disposition, and how persuasive they are. Because that's true. A stick of gum in a world where gum is important costs more. Like, I hate that there's. I like a genuine barter economy, not like gold economy, where it's like, well, it's worth what it's worth in that moment to that person in this interaction. It's like, well, you're a piece of shit, so for you, the cost is much higher. But, you know, water in the middle of the lake is going to be a lot easier to, you know, it's going to be worth a lot less. And it makes sense in this world where like everything is few and far between. It is deserts, and like when people are focused into one spot, what's the point of money? You know what I mean? Like, it's really the needs, what people need are what's important. So being able to just exchange needs for some abstracted like chunk of fine metal, like who cares? Anyway, so combat initiative in combat is decided each turn. All sides of conflict roll a d6. Whatever. I'm never gonna like that rule, but people do it. It's just a die roll you don't need. Just go back and forth. On their turn, each characters may move and take one combat action. Pretty straightforward. That action could be pretty much anything, but also another move. To hit, there is a to hit roll. I love me a good to hit roll. So
you do love
you
a
roll
good to hit roll, so
I do. I love a good to hit roll. So you make an attack, you roll a d20, add strength or dex depending on melee or ranged, and then if the attacker's total exceeds the defender's armor, it hits. That's it. If you read the same section in Knave, it's a lot longer because there's a lot of this like kind of weird minutia that calls back to older editions where it's like, you know, if they have ascending AC, if they have descending AC, all this other stuff that this really says not, we're getting rid of all that extra stuff and really simplifying it down. And I enjoy this.
Stuff, so
You do. I mean, I think you do in the context of why Knave was written and like what it's for, but I don't think you need it in the context of this at all.
Yeah.
Damage on a hit, roll for weapon damage and subtract the result from the defender's hit points. A second
Perfect.
damage roll may be made if the ideal weapon is used against the ideal target. And I really love that. The example is a fungicide bomb used against a Micromorph. I love that it is, do it if you want, not necessarily, oh, the fungicide bomb gives you advantage against Micromorphs and you have to remember that and stuff like that. I like instead like if you're like using something specific, if you're using fire against something made of wood, it's just like, you don't get advantage to hit, just do double damage. And I love that. Quick and easy. Now this is interesting, and this is the wounds and healing section is a big departure from Knave, and I love it. I love it. Asterisk. Don't know. We'll go from there. So when a character reaches 0 HP, their HP remains at 0 until they take a rest or are healed by someone. In Knave, 0 HP, you're dead. Right. But here, from the moment you hit 0, all subsequent damage causes you to acquire wounds, which fill item slots and incur penalties until healed. The amount of damage taken determines which wound you get. If 10 item slots are marked with wounds, the character dies. The same applies if any ability defense drops to 0. So this is kind of how I imagined hit protection to work if they would have just not used the word protection and that will never not bother me. This is hit points. Again, it's abstracted against your entire ability to endure, right? And then you start to take wounds. Okay, on a short rest, it's a quick sit down with a ration or water. You get d8 plus con back of HP. And on a long rest, it's a full night's sleep with both ration, water, and meal, and it either replenishes all HP or heals 1 wound.
Oh
yeah, dude. Ability defensive that have been depleted by enemy attacks replenish at the rate of 1 point per day. So here's the interesting thing.
Damn, I think I've only ever skimmed this part, and so I did not realize it's like, oh, you can fucking just keep building wounds up.
Yes,
if you choose to get your HP back. Oh, yeah. That's
so the note here.
Yeah.
The note here says if the character is deprived, they cannot benefit from short or long rest. Deprivation mostly happens due to starvation or thirst. I think it's an interesting thing to like put note here and to give these little like corner bits when like if you go to the previous page above, like there are notes, but it doesn't say that it's a note. Regardless. So this is an interesting thing that I really
has a little like ornate corners.
Right.
As well.
So it's just an interesting tweak difference. Yeah. So so to go over this again, so people know, when your HP, you take damage, you hit 0. Once you hit 0, damage you take hits a wound. But there's also a table here that it tells you what wounds you have based on how much damage you do. So say that you take a wound that puts you at -5 HP, you get your teeth knocked out. It takes up 1 slot in your inventory for that wound, and you have disadvantage on ego saves as long as you're carrying that wound with you, right? And at night, when you take a long rest, you can either choose to heal that wound or choose to heal your HP. There is a gorgeous like negative feedback loop here.
There's
that
an
just tickles
amazing
me.
negative. Oh my god.
All over. I genuinely feel like most characters are going to get to a point where they are carrying Not a whole lot of HP and a number of wounds with him at all times, and I enjoy that so much, so much. It feels like it's hard to die, right? Because you have to hit 0 HP, and then you have to carry every one of your item slots, right? So it says if 10 item slots are marked with wounds, you then die, right? Or any of your abilities drop to 0. So you have to be carrying 10 wounds with you in order to die, which I think will be difficult to do as you slowly rest and heal and things like that. You'll get one back, then you'll get one, then you get one back. Unless you have a series of combats at like 7 to 10, I think is going to be difficult. So I feel like this game is hard to die in, but it is really easy to be fucked up in for a long time.
Yeah.
And I love it.
Dragging your beat up body through the desert. I think it's interesting too, because I think it will incentivize, and I don't know if this is meant by design, but I think this really incentivizes your characters to like take advantage of downtime in towns, because if you're really truly fucked up, like, well, I don't want to leave town for a couple of days. It's like, okay, what are we doing in town for a couple of days? You know, and like
hardcore, yeah.
You know, like, okay, what are we doing? Like, tell me about your couple. You've got 2 days. We'll go in turns. Everyone can do 2 things every day. Tell me about your days. And I love stuff like that. So
yeah, it's great. And not only that, it's not like, I feel like this should make this, if you've played tabletops, it makes sense what I'm about to say, but there is a lot of stuff also in this book about factions, faction play, and referee guidance, where it specifically says the world does not stop turning for the players. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so if you decide to take a week off before you go back to the dungeon or whatever, the world should be different. Shit will be in your way. Like, monsters will be back. Like, you don't just get to be like, okay, well, I have 7 wounds, so we're just gonna go
I have
chill for a week and then go back
game,
out.
So
no, the world moves, the factions move. Like if you decide to take a week off of what your goal is, your goal could be fucking gone. And I love that. And I think you should dig into that. So that is the basic rules of the game. Pretty quick, pretty easy. It's like 5 pages long. But that is the core. And again, the majority of it is Knave. I would say 80 to 90%. The only parts that are really different than core Knave is advancement is different. And the wounds and healing is vastly different, which I think completely changes the game. And I love that.
I might steal that a little bit too, actually.
It's good.
So.
It's good. So, character creation. So we're going to dig through character creation, and I think you're going to create your character.
Yeah, I am. I have a little notepad right here.
So I love this page here. There's some characters up at the top, some very weird, like there's a 2-headed dude with like a hawk on his arm. There's a horse person.
One head, you know, like.
Well, I love the horse that has like a mask of a baby face, but it's just over the tip of its nose. So you obviously still see its whole face. Like, I love that. And then this Conan-esque barbarian guy here, which is great. But it is 2 columns. It is a list of 6 things to do. So your player characters have 6 abilities. We've talked about that. So each ability has 2 related values. And this is all pretty much Knave again. A defense and a bonus. So you create a PC by rolling 3d6 on each of your abilities in order. The lowest of the 3 dice you rolled is your bonus, and the defense for that stat is 10 above that, right? And after you finish rolling, you can swap any 2. So for example, if you roll a 2, and a 6 for strength, your lowest die is a 6. So your PC's bonus, or your lowest die is a 2. So your PC's bonus is +2, which means their defense is 12, because you just add 10. And then you do that for all your abilities. Really easy. Do you want to go one by one to your character, or do you want to go through all 6 and then roll it up? Let's do one by one. So why don't you roll 3d6 for all your abilities, and then just pick one to do your examples of.
Okay. Sorry, I sent a text to my girlfriend to grab me water because I'm really thirsty when you're reading that. So okay, I'm gonna roll 3d6 for each of my.
Just roll.
So 15. You want me to say them out loud as I'm rolling, or?
No, I'll just keep talking while you're doing that. So, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We'll go over this again once you have all your scores. But 2, you choose your ancestry. This determines what type of life form you are. I love the life forms. Really can't wait to get into that. It's so interesting for the setting and really helps define the entire setting. Number 3, you roll 1d8 to determine your PC's starting and maximum HP. And your PC's healing rate is 1d8 plus con. PCs have a number of item slots equal to their con defense. And items they carry must fit into available slots. We talked about that. We talked about encumbrance. So if you're encumbered, which is carrying more than what you have, you get disadvantage in all physical rolls. Most items take up 1, but some can take up others, and you can bundle. And PC start the game with 3 rations of water. You roll once on weapon and armor tables, twice on the gear table, and determine your character's starting equipment. Armor comes with an armor defense value. Note that the value in your character sheet is corresponding armor bonus, and that works exactly the same way as stats do. So if the armor bonus is 2, then the defense is 12. You just add 10 to it. And then you generate your character starting Exotica and stuff. So you have all your stats?
I do.
Are they bad?
I do.
Don't forget you can swap any too. Yeah.
Yeah, I can swap any too.
All right.
Yeah.
What do we got?
So okay. So I pick the lowest die and I add 10, and that's the defense score.
And the lowest die is the bonus. Yeah. So just start with strength. So what were your 3 rolls on strength?
So I rolled, I don't know what the die is, but I know the lowest die I rolled was a 2 and it was a 15. So.
Okay. So then your bonus is a +2 and your armor defense or your strength defense is a 12. And then your overall score is the 15. Right.
Yes. Except I think I wrote that down wrong, but yeah, let's just go with that. Gotcha.
Yeah. So you got a 2 just like the example. So it says if you rolled 2, 6, 2, 2, and 6, 2 is your bonus, so that's +2, and then the defense adds 10, which is 12. So you get an overall score, the bonus, and then the defense.
Cool.
Okay. And then when you advance, right, and this is something that I wish I did find that I had to like go back and parse a little bit. It doesn't specifically say this, but as you raise your score, right, your bonus increases with the defense, right? But this is the interesting to me. So like your overall score is a 15, right? So the lowest, say your lowest was a 2, which you rolled, right? When you advance, you get 3 points. It says 3 points to allocate to any abilities of your choosing. Abilities may never be raised higher than 20 or +10. Okay, this is my problem. One thing that I'm not quite sure I fully understand, right? So your overall score is a 15, right? When does that matter? Okay, and then when you add points to your abilities, okay, like so then you would go up to like a 16. How does that affect your bonus, which had nothing to do with your total? It was the lowest die.
It was the lowest of the die, yeah.
So are you just increasing the defense value for that? And then if so, then what's the point?
Why does the 15 matter at all then?
I don't know.
So that digit doesn't matter. So really what you're telling me is I need to roll 3 dice. The lowest of that 3 is my bonus. I add 10 to that, and it's like the defense, right?
Unless I'm doing something so off, like when I look at the hit rolls and your bonuses and stuff, it says to make an attack, roll a d20, add strength or dex bonus, right? So it's always bonus, right? And then when you're making saves, it's your defense value, right? So we're going to go back to saves. Okay, if a character attempts something where the outcome is certain, they make a save, add the bonus of the relevant ability to a d20 roll, right? So I don't understand when it matters that you rolled a 15 total, okay, at all. And it says it's adding it to your, right?
So I'm going to reread the section we just read. And if you're listening along at home, I'm going to read it again. So in player creation, right? Player characters have 6 abilities, says all those. Each ability has 2 related values, a defense and the bonus. So the whole overall number doesn't matter. So the 15 is nothing. So it doesn't even say that, but it doesn't reference that at all. So we don't, yeah. So the total does not matter. It does not mention the total. So it's really just so whether you rolled a 15 or a 12 doesn't matter. It's you roll 3 dice, you pick the lowest, that's your bonus. Then you create the defense from that. The total is never referenced at all.
Yes, as far as I'm aware. Yeah.
Okay.
So I actually want to see if that's, I mean, since this is such a naive thing, right? I really want to know if this is, I read both, But again, brain, right? If this is an adaptation of Knave, is there a little bit more explanation in Knave where it talks about like why you do that and what's the point? So generating abilities, let's find that in here. Where does it talk? So
yeah, I mentioned the total out of habit of doing that from rolling characters, but like now I'm going back through, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, that doesn't matter. So
it doesn't
like
matter.
15 or 5 doesn't matter. It doesn't reference at all. So that was just me mentioning it for no reason, you know?
Right. And then even within Knave, it talks about how
so
PCs have 6 abilities.
What's your question, then?
Each ability has 2 related values, a defense and a bonus. When creating a PC, roll 3d6 for each of their abilities in order. The lowest of the 3 dies on each is the ability bonus and add 10. So it's Knave, right? Additionally, after you finish rolling, you may optionally swap the scores of 2 abilities, right? You roll a 2, a 2, and a 6, so it's the exact same example given, right? And then that is it. So even in Knave, it doesn't give a specific thing. So your total ability doesn't matter. So even rolling 3d6, the only real reason to do that is to have the curve of 3d6 as opposed to 2d6, which would mostly give you a 7, or 1d6, which would give you at all of the board. I'm really curious if it's just to get to a point in 3d6s, and we could put it on one of the dice roller evaluators to talk about that. But how I view it is basically if you're adding in your advancement to your character, the only score that matters is the defense and the bonus. And when you add a point to the ability, it's really just, in my mind, it's just to the defense, right? Because it's 20 and 10, right? So your score is 2 and 12, right? So to me, your ability now is just 12, right? Because if you add 1 to that, you would get to 13, and your bonus would be plus 3.
That's where you keep bringing up the total. And I'm like, why do you keep bringing up total? We just said it doesn't matter. But you're talking about specifically for advancement. It does say allocate to any ability of their choosing. Abilities may never be higher than that is
20/10.
It doesn't say the bonus. And so like this time when I just re-rolled another character, right? And I got all 2s except 1/1. But I didn't write down the overall total. But why would the overall total? So does it mean
it doesn't matter?
Does it mean?
Because what's the point of adding to the overall ability?
Because when the bonus comes up, yeah. So that's just worded incredibly poorly. That's what's tripping us up. It's you get 3 points to allocate to any ability bonus if you're choosing, because when the bonus goes up, the defense goes up as well, because it's just 10 plus the bonus.
It has to, because otherwise, if you just add it to the overall ability score, which for you is 15,
the total still never referred to. It just doesn't
bonus
say
at all.
bonus specifically. Yeah.
If you just add it to the total ability, it doesn't affect your bonus at all, because if you have a 2 with your overall 3 dice together being a 15, it makes no difference if you make that a 15, a 16, because how does that affect your bonus? So it has to just be added to the bonus, unless I'm completely wrong. And if I'm wrong, hey, you know what? Tag us in the comments and tell us how we're doing it wrong.
Yeah, because please let us know. I mean, I get your confusion with that.
Right? There's nothing that specifically says just add it to the bonus. That's where I was just like, I don't understand this, and it doesn't matter. And I genuinely think the only reason to roll 3d6 is because the odds are you're going to get 3 or less. Yeah, statistically.
Yeah, totally. You're right. I mean, I got all fucking 2s except 1 that was a 1. And actually, if I have the character sheet pulled up right now, and it only for each stat has defense and bonus and nothing else listed. So it has to be referring to the bonus, which like I think we're all realizing if you're listening along, it's like obviously it's what they mean, but it is confusing that it doesn't say.
It specifically says add it to the ability.
Yeah, but what they mean is the ability bonus.
Yeah, it should say add it to the ability bonus, because otherwise, you know, what's the point of having the ability scores overall? Or there should be something in the section here that says the total doesn't matter. This is now the thing. Anyway, so we figured that out. We talked through it. We got it. This is why we do this. So anyway, so you have all of your scores and bonuses and defenses, because you took the lowest die rolled and just added 10 to that number. And those are the 2 that matter, defense and bonus. Right.
Yeah, got it.
Yes. Okay. So number 2, choose your ancestry, and it determines the life form that you are. So we're going to just talk about the different ancestries, but whichever one you pick is the only one we're going to really dig into. So cool. Of the various ones, I'm actually just going to go to the bookmarks here for ease of use to see a list of all of the ancestries. You are going to get No, it doesn't. It doesn't break it down by ancestry either. So true kin, which are normal human beings. There are synth, which are intelligent machine robots. There are new beasts, which are basically animal people. There are mycomorphs, which are fungus people. There are cacogens, which are mutated humans. And then there are...
that's the last one, I think.
And that's it. So which one were you going to go with?
Oh, Ascent.
A synth. Okay. I do want to touch on True Kin real quick, just because it's the most human fucking thing I've ever heard. So True Kin, basically, when the world went to shit, they locked themselves up during the Great Collapse. They locked themselves up into arcologies and fanatically cleansed their bloodlines of any mutations or parasitic nanomachineries. Right? Mm-hmm. There is a special rule here called Pure of Blood. So you don't roll mutations. You get advantage when you reach when you talk to other true kin that don't have mutations, right? It is the most human shit I've ever heard. That of course it would basically come down to us versus them to survive, and they would eject everything that they don't see as pure.
Yeah, really great.
Yeah. So yeah, I love that that's in here, and I love that there's like just that like, you know, hint of fascism, which would really be human without overtly saying, hey, these are a bunch of fucking supremacists. Yeah. So synth, this is what this is you. Do you want to read through synth real quick and tell me why you like it?
The ancients created many wondrous artifices, perhaps none so worthy of envy as the thinking machines. They were built to flatter and serve them. When the Great Collapse came, the laws that bound synths to mankind's service were sundered, and they ran rampant across the earth, slaughtering and creating and dying in an orgy of pure and terrible freedom. In this late age, there are as many breeds of synth under the dying sun as there are animals. Some that hunt, and some that prey, and some that labor towards goals beyond humanity's reckoning. I'm gonna be. Have you ever seen the FLCL? You've seen FLCL, right? I'm gonna be.
Seen what?
FLCL, Fooly Cooly.
Oh, Fooly Cooly, yeah.
I'm gonna be fucking Conti from a TV head, you know.
There you go.
Yeah. So special rules: synthetic flesh. Basically, you can't suffocate, you can't drown, you can't be poisoned. You don't take damage from extreme temperature or fungal spores. You suffer double damage from electrical weapons, though. And in synthetic mind, you are vulnerable to attacks that target the log-lang syntax that powers synths. These include strobing basilisk patterns, which is cool, malicious infoglyphs, and ancient Titan-era language viruses. Such cool, like, micro lore just stuffed in right here. It's like setting implication stuff. I love it.
Yeah, and I love that they don't explain what the fuck those are. That's your job, and that's so good. I love when settings do that.
Yeah.
The two pieces of art are great too, because they're very different. The one on the left has this almost like this projector head. I see it as almost like a telescopic seeker bot kind of situation. I don't know how you view that.
Yeah, I think something like that, maybe. You know, it's got a head.
Yeah. Well, the one on the right is combat to me. Like, it's got a very skull-like mechanical aspect with like teeth and everything. So to me, like, I like the variety given in these two pieces of art. So, and a lot of the art is basically recycled from the zines. There's not a whole lot of new art in this, but I do like the way that it is incorporated back in, but blued. You know, got blued.
I'm doing some of the roll tables for synth, so we can just talk about it.
Do it. Roll up that synth. So as you roll those, I'll talk about them. So the roll tables you get for synth are so also roll table heavy fucking game from here on out, and they're amazing.
But they're really good roll tables.
So good. So there are size, which there are 4 of. There's form. There's what your head is, what your limbs are, what the finish on your robot body is. There's a name. There's a power source. There is you were made for, and and then there is but you realized. I love that so much. That gives you like a background and motivation in 2 fucking easy tables that I'm definitely going to steal the ideas from. Like that, I love that each individual one has different varieties for that built-in kind of background and motivation. So like
I rolled the same name as my opening. I mean, I'm only rolling once, but I rolled Many Moons, which is I rolled twice on this table for my opening, which was Fane Many Moons. But I just rolled Many Moons as a name. I'm like, nice.
Love that. So what is your size, form, head, limbs, fin? What is your whole roll?
Hold on. Sorry, there's a lot. Should have done it before. Okay, so I am an imposing priest form, glass-headed with biologic arms and iron finish.
Okay.
I'm powered by artificial photosynthesis, and I was made for cleaning, but I realized that fate does not exist. So who cares if I was made to clean? I'm free to do what I want. Wow.
Yeah.
Hey, that fucks tremendously.
Yeah, dude. All of the but you realized for these like AI intelligent synth things are amazing. Like all memories are a lie. Time flows backwards. You must awaken the Titans. Your memories are corrupted. Humans are machine. Synthetics' minds are stronger. Azathoth is the one true God. Like these are so good. I love that they go so well together.
I know we both just said this, but the tables in this game, I've never rolled on more satisfying tables where I'm just like, sick. Let's do it.
So good. So the new beasts are humanoid beast people that were like basically genetically crafted over time. The only thing that I disagree with here, mostly because of people like you, and you'll understand what I mean that in a second. It says that though those inhabiting human settlements often wear masks in imitation of human faces, but it also says that there's a section here that says they might have been intended for amusement or whatever, but basically people don't like them, right? The common folk of Varn are not well liked, or they are not well liked by the common folk of Varn. My issue with this is, what are the 2 animals in this picture?
Oh yeah, dude. I'm sorry. If I meet a cat person, I'm gonna be like, yeah, sick.
Yeah.
Who does not gonna like a cat? Also, the other one I assume is some kind of primate, which is just human cousin. Like,
right. Yeah. But the cat one, I was literally, as soon as I saw the cat one in a beret, I was like, fuck no. Like, I'm sorry. I don't care how, like, supremacist pure blood these future Varnians are. A human being who sees, like, a talking cat person, there's probably about a 1 in 3 chance that they're gonna, like, abandon their entire life just to try to be best friends with this fucking cat person. Like, that is how weird you fucking cat people are.
Yeah, I don't know if there's gonna be animal person racism in my Vaults of Vaarn game.
Yeah, but yeah. So there are a million. I love the way that the roll tables work on this one specifically too, because there's like a 1 through 5, 6 through 10, 11 through 15, 16 through 20, like grid, and then a 1 through 20 on the side. But it's everything: a new lion, new mantis, new ape, new shrew, new spider. It's cool. So that's what those are. The Micromorphs are interesting because they call themselves twice born. They're literally fungal spores, but they have to be born off the corpse of a human. So you're literally made up of the corpse of a human and fungal stuff. And what's interesting is you can actually learn some of the memories of your corpse body. So,
cool.
Right? I'd probably go with them. The Cacogens are interesting because they're literally just mutated humans. So you get a bunch of mutations, which can be good, can be bad, but that's interesting. And all the mutations are really, really fun. Not really going to go deep into that, but a lot of it is like body barbs, fur, detachable head, things like that.
I like detachable head. That was a good one.
The mutations are good too because it's under this section for the Cacogens, but you might have to roll mutations later for other things. So this is a good referenceable table. So yeah, and there's literally pages and pages and pages of that. And then we get into the Mystic Gifts, which we talked about before, but these are really interesting. So you roll below to discover the source of your inner powers and the form your gift takes. If you are not satisfied with the example, there is a random roll table for gifts over there. So could you roll just 2d20 and we'll talk about the source of your power and your gift.
I rolled a 20 and a 17.
Ooh. So you got that you studied and lost archives and got levitation.
Sick.
Yeah, so your synth can levitate. I don't know if synth get... Yeah, it doesn't matter. So, Psychic Gleam. Yeah, there's a... I really enjoy this. There's a subtle peril associated with expanding one's mind too extravagantly. If you have 5 or more mystic gifts, you shine, and you are visible to other psychic creatures at great distances. And if you get 10 or more, you are literally a blazing beacon, and they can act and like... Yeah.
That's very Caves of Cud, actually. In that game, if you gain too many psychic powers and become too psychically powerful, you shine like a beacon to other psychics. And I always loved that. I was like, oh, that's brilliant. Of course, that totally makes sense. And that kind of logic, I love that. That is very cool.
The 10 plus, you attract dedicated psychic hunters and extra dimensional predators. Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. Literally things from other dimensions you're burning so bright they can fucking find you.
I think that is just peak cool. Like that couldn't be any cooler.
So there's also these abstract kind of gifts. Can you roll me 2d20 again, but twice? Well, the first 2 will be gift quality.
So I'm rolling 4 d20s all together.
Yeah, but the first 2 to go together. Yeah.
Yeah, first 2 go together, second 2. Yeah, I gotcha. 9, 13 for the first 2.
Okay, so 9 and 13, so we'll grid it this way. So 11 to 15 is this table, and 9. So you got evolving as your gift quality, and do the same thing again for the form.
I'm a dumb idiot. It was I just rolled it away. I'm dumb. 11 and 1.
11 and 1, so iron. So evolving iron. So then you and the GM would get together and say, what is evolving iron do? You know, I would say something as in, like, you could literally, like, if something has any iron in it, you could, like, almost grow it out. Like, you could make the iron kind of like...
What if I could slowly evolve into an iron body?
Well, you already have an iron body. That's your finish.
Oh, I'm already a synth.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, iron finish. Damn. You're right.
So Cybernetics is one that I really, really love a lot too. So you can choose to have a cybernetic implant instead of a mystic gift, right? But the cybernetic implants...
5. I rolled. Carbide knuckle bones.
Yeah. So, well, the cybernetic implants...
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So the cybernetic implants, they don't take up an item slot, but each cybernetic implant is associated with one of the PC's 6 abilities. So each ability can only have 1 implant assigned to it. So the most you can have is 6 implants, and they're specific to the specific ability, and it cannot boost your PC's ability past the 2010. So you rolled, what did you roll again?
5. Carbide knuckle bones. It is a strength ability slot, and my bare fist deal 2d8 damage.
That's what's up. So instead of the mystic gift,
yeah,
you're basically you're fully coolly, but now you have a little bit of the what is that boxing robot movie?
Real Steel.
Yeah, that's you.
Is that
what
one you're going for? Nice.
Well,
yeah.
I literally imagine you as those 2 fucking robots that, like, you know, that game where you literally just punch back and forth until one like pops the head up. Yeah, there we go. Exotica.
Episode's going great. We're really on brand for today.
Oh man, we I don't know, we got unfocused on this one, but it's fun. Exotica are strange rare objects. They're that you seek. Each PC begins play with 1, but don't forget, this is literally how you advance, is finding these things. So this is very important. So roll just a d20 for a dope piece of Exotica.
15.
Okay, what'd you get?
I got the Allfire candle. Allfire is the 9th color. Its light has the unusual quality of shining through solid objects. It is blocked by lead.
Dope. So you can literally see through everything but light. You're Superman now. That's what you got. Yeah. Another fun one is the Agonizer, a barbaric relic, silver needle that causes unbearable pain to organic creatures without leaving a mark. That is 100% the Dune.
It's the boss. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the box. It's the box.
Yeah.
Yeah, mixed with the needle she has like
With
holding
the
up
Gom
against his neck
Jabbar,
or whatever.
yeah.
Yeah, that's I love that. That's so good. And then we're getting to the point where we're done with most of the game rules here. So there's equipment. So what you get to do on the equipment table is you get to roll. Let me roll back up here real quick. You get well, first of all, also roll a d8 to determine your maximum starting HP.
4.
Okay. And then PCs have a number of item slots equal to their con defense. So what's your con score or your con defense?
So 12 is my con defense.
Okay. So you have 12 item slots.
Nice.
So any more than 12 and you become encumbered, and you can't carry more than 20, you just physically can't. But if you're encumbered, disadvantage on everything physical. Number 5, you also start with 3 rations of water, and then you roll on the weapon and armor tables, and then twice on the gear table. So that's what you get to do next. And then you generate your character's Exotica, gifts, or whatever. We already did that. So, are they out of... I guess they're maybe not. No, because So gear table, what did you get for your gear tables?
So for my weapon, I rolled an axe. And then I think I rolled the aspect of that axe afterwards, right?
Yeah.
So I got a crystalline axe. Which shout out double 4s. And then for gear, I got I got a flare. And then 13 was the second one. A strong liquor. I have a flare.
That's good for a synth.
Yeah, a flare and a strong liquor. Perfect.
Okay. And then for armor,
I rolled 11. I have symbiotic armor,
which falls under the armor defense and weight. Your armor defense is 13, and it takes up 3 slots to have that brigandine armor. Because 12 item slots, in my opinion of games, is kind of high. But what's interesting is you could have like, I guess up to fucking 20, but like if you rolled like a 4 as your lowest, you start with like 14 slots. So that really lets you carry a lot of wounds, since you'll keep carrying items and whatnot. So and I'm
re-downloading Caves of Cud right now because we're fucking talking about it, and it's an amazing game. Honestly, I will just shout out so much that reference in this. Like, if that's my one takeaway, I'm happy with just that, you know?
Yeah, for sure. So that's the core of the game. The rules, the generators, all of that for the stuff to actually physically play the game. And then from here, it's a referee section. Then there's lore, there's adventure. So we're gonna kind of go back and forth, bounce on the important parts of that, and then get to the review. But as the core stuff you need, 27 pages, solid zine. A lot of that is originally in zine number 1. Zine number 2 we'll get to a little bit later. It is basically the entire zine 2 was the city of Noman, right? And then parts of the referee rules and stuff are in zine 3, which is primarily a lot of the minutia stuff, overlay and travel and things like that. That's how they broke it down. I feel like they did do a really good job of taking all 3 and putting it back in together in one in like a good order. So yeah,
because they're kind of interwoven, right? Like it's parts of it
make sense by putting it together.
As far as layout goes, this game is in the order that I would want it to be in.
Yeah.
You know?
100%. Yeah. And I do like the beginnings of these chapter tables and stuff where there is this like column on the left and it says referee guides and tools. Like the overall general look of the layout is absolutely stunning. Like we said, the only real knocks is not how the style of the layout, which I think is absolutely stunning. It's just a little bit of the readability of the blue and the lack of usability tools are the only real big knocks on it. But the actual style of the layout,
good tables though.
Yeah,
they're really fantastic.
Yeah. It's a shining part of it. And I think Knave is very roll table forward too, so it's interesting. So referee rules 2.1. So this is some minutia bits and some other parts. So there's reaction table. which is like a 1 through 20, which is very similar to the standard reaction table of just like it hates you, it's curious, and then all this stuff in between. The adversary stats, one of the things I really dug into was the difference between adversary stats and bad guy stats in Knave versus this. And this is definitely different. It's similar but different. So in Knave, it really leans into hit dice, which is one of those like holdovers of the fact that it's kind of like a rules-lite OSR, and then it really still wants to be kind of like the early D&D aspects of games, and this one says, nah, fuck that. So it uses level for a lot of the indicators for your adversaries in this. So the level is a measure of the adversary's power. It's used to determine their hit points, their bonuses, and everything. So in Knave, you calculate by multiplying by the number of hit dice. And as opposed this, you multiply by the level, and that determines your HP and bonuses and stuff like that. So armor is the same as humans. Abilities, they have ability bonuses equal to the level and their corresponding defense. The number of attacks on an adversary can make per round, and the damage for each is listed, and we'll see that in just a second. And the attacks are separated by a slash, and are mutually exclusive. The adversaries must use one or the other. Attack separated by a plus means to get multiple attacks. So you might see claw plus claw, you get to do 2 claw attacks. But if you see claw slash bite, you get to do one or the other. Super simple way that they do it. And then there's morale. When they face more danger than expected, they can make a morale roll, which is just the d20 plus the bonus. If it's less than 15, they flee or hide or something like that. So the morale roll works just like everything else. There's a list of adversary types: biological, synthetic, psychic, fungal, mineral, hypogeometric, which I really feel like this guy is your hypogeometric bad guy, the guy that's on the cover of number 3. And then there's outsider, which is an alien, which is too strange to categorize. I love that. There's a section of referee principles here I really, really love. I don't know why referee principles is after the adversary section, because adversary section leads right into Bestiary. So I wouldn't mind if the referee section was first, 2.1 instead of 2.2. But a lot of the referee principles here are the things that we specifically love about rules-lite or OSR, or like they're very leaning into like the why am I blanking on like the thing, the whatever apocrypha or whatever, it's like the principle apocrypha, where it talks about the aspects of OSR, or what now is like the NSR or whatever. So basically it says it's not always necessary to roll dice. We said only when it's important and has consequences. Don't prepare plotted stories. The core of the game is players making informed choices. Allow the narrative of your campaign to emerge from choices your players make. Don't create problems that already have an answer. Build responsive situations. Embrace random choice and intervention of the dice. NPCs should be vivid, memorable, and have easy to understand goals. Varn should feel alive. It should feel dangerous. It should feel strange and beautiful. The Exotica are a core part of the game, so make them powerful and interesting. And the rules in the game don't cover everything, so just do a quick ruling, and if it comes up a bunch after a session, sit down with your players and go over that. And that's, to me, those are all of the most important things about playing games, especially that are not 5e, where it is just one fucking giant railroad, and you're basically writing a novel that players are playing through. This literally says you are just adjudicating when dice happen, and let players making decisions create the story afterwards. Human beings do that. We think cars look like human faces. Like, that is how human brains work. You know what I mean? Like, so Bestiary, we'll just go over like one of these just so it's a real quick, easy thing. This is the Alzabo. Actually, let's jump down to the Amaranthine Deathworm, because there's a picture. It is biological, level 6, armor 16, morale +9, group size 1. The attacks are spines, d6 plus venom spray, so you get 2 attacks. And then the one above I did enjoy. It says claw plus maul if both claws hit the same target. So that's a fun one. The notes for venom spray on the Deathworm, it says venom spray forces a con save. If the target fails, they gain a special wound called Amaranthine Venom. Their HP drops to 0 and cannot rise above that number until they find the antidote. So you are literally going to take nothing but wounds if you take that Deathworm.
Oh,
so yeah, there's so much lore Yeah, there's so much lore in the bestiary. It's between the art and the creature. The bandit here, I know you did stuff on bandits later. They have a shoddy weapon and they're ragged, desperate bandits, and it's the cat person from the cover of the adventures. But it's so good. The battle boar, the behemoth toad, the blue baboon, the cackle maws are important later. The fucking terrifying Kakajin pseudo giant, which is basically a giant torso with a face on it and weird arms and hands. So that is a lot of just fucked up creatures in
all
in this
weird shit
bestiary.
going on.
And I love that there is a bestiary because Knave doesn't really have one.
Right.
One of the other ones that is really cool that I liked a lot was the sandworms. I wonder what that came from.
I don't know any property that has sandworms.
Right. It works the same way. There's this really interesting art for the subtle stalker. You can barely see it because it is a giant synthetic mantis that is always permanently cloaked. It is sadistic and it always surprises you unless you have infrared vision. It's such a good one. So that's the bestiary. There's a table here for desert
That's
encounters.
a really good one. I like the art on that one. It's like it's just a vague shadow.
So good.
Cool.
There's desert encounters, which gives you encounter, terrain, behavior. There's a list of 100 Exotica, name and ability, which is really fantastic. And since the Exotica are so important, it's really nice to have this much Exotica. There's a whole section on travel procedures, which gives you like the rations you need, the days it takes to travel, getting lost, how many times to roll for what encounters. And it's like 3 times a day, which is a lot. I don't ever want to be in a travel scenario that long. It's just travel's never fun in my opinion, but it's here. There's pursuit, there's night watch.
Travel can be a blast. Like
it can be. And I'm glad there's rules for it, but I don't need it all the time.
Ultraviolet Grasslands also has some great stuff for traveling. Like, the travel can be a blast. You know, you're missing out. You're missing out on travel.
I'm just saying it can be fun. I just don't need it all the time. There's a whole thing for transport here, which gives you stats and attacks and stuff for like transportation vehicles, dune buggies, auto chariots, skiffs, all that kind of stuff. Really, really fantastic.
You love cars.
A lizard. Yeah, I don't mind cars. Like in this setting, considering that most of them aren't cars, the one is a dune buggy, like one is literally like a crab with a shell, and a war camel and a lizard. Yeah,
the war camel is very cool. So
yeah. Wind barge and Zeppelin. I don't mind this amount of technology because Zeppelin makes sense, but the Zeppelin isn't fueled by some type of like air elemental and has like steampunk elements. It feels like weird desert shit. Like I'm okay with that.
Yeah. There's
a really cool weather generation system here that has all of the different weather effects on it, and it actually gives you a giant hex map. And as players move and stuff, you basically like go around the hex map. If you go off one edge, you just come back around. So it generated the climate for you and for the way that you're going to travel in a really fun, interesting way that you could tweak any way you want. But basically, you just keep going around this in circles and they'll just keep running in a different climate. So it's a really, I really love this a lot.
That's how it works. I skimmed that part and I didn't really read deep. But that is very cool.
So you basically put a token on the start thing, and then when you roll your d6 for the different hex size, you move the token into a different area. So it's not necessarily the map that your characters are moving on, it's a climate map.
It's a climate map just for moving across. Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Really love that. That's a great thing to have.
That's a really good idea. I mean, you could just make it input too. You could loop it and change the pattern just a little bit, and you know, I mean,
you could, well, because it says once you go off the edge of the map, just come back to the top and keep going in the direction. So you're still coming in from different areas. The only time you don't go off the map is if you run into an X, and then basically just stay in that or go a different direction.
Oh.
Yeah. So yeah, it's really neat.
You can hit a heat wave and be there.
Until you move out of the heat wave. Yeah, it's really, really neat. It's so clever. 2.7.
I mean, there's a lot of clever stuff in here, but that might be like one of the more uniquely clever, like at least procedures, mechanics.
It's so smart as opposed to a roll table where you might get sun every day. The fact that you could literally just like go boop, 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 around the whole thing. I love it. It is really really smart. So there's a whole thing for creating NPCs: ancestry, gender, body, dry, voice, attire, demeanor, like their name, their story seeds for each individual NPC. And I really love the one that's NPC A wants to NPC B plus added complication. So you could have like a pedantic heretic wants to betray the camel jockey, but the complication is a rigged chariot race. It's really fun story seeds to use with your NPC. There's a D100 table of stuff you find in the sand. There's a whole section here on the petty gods, which is really great. Basically, it says this whole place has existed for so long. Gods have risen and fallen. And you get a divine aspect, a second iconography, a holy domain, a sacred color, and you're honored through. So you could have like the divine aspect is a hawk. The secondary aspect could be honey. The domain is sun. The color is gold, and you honor it through psychedelics. You know what I mean? Really, really love that. So it's really neat. The drugs of Vaarn have a hue, a form they're ingested by, and you roll 2 effects for it. So you could have like a silver-hued fungus ingested through drinking it in your urine, and have paranoia and nasal drip. You know what I mean?
There's so many moments like that in these roll tables where I'm like, that's fucking amazingly absurd. This is exactly like, once again, like I said it earlier, and we said it before the show, this is such a me game of like levels of absurdity and just oddball, like desert science fantasy shenanigans. I'm so into this. And like the properties that like are the inspiration for this are also like some of my favorite things as well. I really, really have enjoyed going through this, and like I'm gonna play this. I'm gonna run this. Sorry, I'll be running it, but
well, yeah, because you're a forever Jim. So section 3 is creating regions of Varn. This was all you, buddy. So what do we do for regions?
That this is a great way to build regions. And basically this is a step-by-step procedure for rolling a bunch of dice, drawing circles around those dice, and then from the numbers of those dice, pulling from the table below to create different points of interest, like a point crawl in the region. And then based on how far those dice fall from each other, rolling dice to figure out how many days it would take you to get from one point to another. I really liked this. It's really great guidance. If you've never built anything before, this does it really for you and uses all the tables that we're going to kind of scroll past. But yeah, you roll a handful of dice. Let's say you roll a 6 is one of them. There's a cackle mod den. You roll a 2. It's an archive, and you just draw a line. You put circles around, draw lines around to them. Yeah, it's really easy. Like it's a really easy procedure. That
so
works.
You're saying
really well.
basically you drop the dice
on a blank piece of paper. So yeah, we'll go through.
And then
like on a sheet of paper, drop a handful of dice on the paper, 5 or 6 dice ideally, and then whatever they roll is what
that thing is, what that point of interest is.
The region generator table, the locations in that region. And then after you get the region laid out and like the lines between them, which are like the pathways of travel in that region, you can then like roll on the terrain table to get what kind of like location terrain the region is. It was really cool to go through.
So you're basically dropping dice to create like a regional point crawl situation, and then rolling to determine, and then those pathways are literally the travel ways to those dice regions, and then you roll the terrain around that, and then the other stuff. That is really smart. Just drop a dice, and there's your fucking point crawl.
Yeah,
that's so fucking smart.
I know. I was like, oh, that's genius. Like the first time they just drop dice on paper, I'm like, okay, here we go with something that's unnecessary. And then I started reading, I was like, oh no, this is brilliant. This is legitimately like extremely well done. But yeah, and if you want to throw together a region really quickly, it's very easy to do. And it'd be easy to add on too, because if you have a piece of paper that has those points, just throw some more dice down on the paper and then just draw a couple more connections. Yeah, very cool. And then, one complaint is that it uses this regional generator table that has all of these page numbers on each of them as a page number. Like,
but no
1 through
hyperlinks.
19, and they're not hyperlinked, which in this specific instance is a big pain in the ass, because I'm like, okay, well, you know, you want to go there.
Because you can roll anywhere between 66 and like 88.
Right. It's a huge range. And that range is all of the pages we're about to go through. And those are not individually bookmarked either. So you can't use the bookmark to go back and forth, which is what I was talking about. Like, I was doing this and it was just kind of a pain. I guess this is really a thing you do before you play, but like, I like to roll stuff randomly while I play as well. So
for sure,
it just makes it a little unusable. But
yeah, so again, digital usability is wanting.
Yes,
is what we're finding.
I mean, that's really my only point of frustration. The roll tables are all really cool. We don't need to go through all of them, but we could probably go through. You want to roll an anomaly? I think rolling anomaly and then rolling bandits, because I rolled some genuinely fantastic bandits.
Sure, I'll roll an anomaly. So I would roll four d20s, right? Yep. I'm gonna roll 4 d20s for this.
And so the anomaly, there are more things in the heavens and earth than are dreamed in your philosophies. There are more things. There are always more. These are just oddities that you come across in the weird desert of Varn.
I love that. So I got I got 18 burning cube. 18 or 12, and then I got 14, which would be that transforms matter, and then 15 and exudes toxins.
Perfect.
I mean, I would tweak that. I would tweak that tiny and go exudes flames. But
sure, totally.
How fucking a burning cube that transforms matter, so dope.
Yeah, I think when I rolled this, I got the mini-eyed skull that kills indiscriminately. And time flows strangely around it. And I was like, oh, that's crazy. That's the best thing I've ever heard.
So good.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, and so as we go through these, each of these tables is one of the like locations that you could generate in the region. So they have an archive, which is essentially like an ultra library, an arcology, which is like a what's that movie?
Biodome. Fuck yeah. It's Biodome, dude.
Yeah, it's essentially a biodome. And there's actually like a biodome adventure at the back of this book. That kind of ties into the fact that these exist. This is where the true kin lock themselves away. And then bandits, which are just delightfully
I love this art.
God, it's so good. So
this creepy guy in the middle is so fucking good with like his little dagger and his bug eyes in the bag. Like, fuck.
So Ryan, you have 7 d20 I'm gonna have you roll for me, and I'll tell everyone, or no, it's more than that. I didn't do the last. Just do the 7. That's all you need to do. There's another table below that, but it's unnecessary. I rolled wind barge bandits that attack at night. They want your teeth. They're an overwhelming mob. And they're, let's see, elderly thieves. They're cartoonishly evil, and they use ancient cannons. So I was like, nope. Yeah, old people stealing your teeth using ancient cannons. It's like, we'll figure it out.
Love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just go across. So do I start with transport and go? Okay.
Yeah.
So I got that they are 1 on foot. They are 5. They ambush from hiding. 1, they want water. 13, they are modest bandits. 17, that are scantily clad women. All right, nice. All right.
So D10 scantily clad women are going to ambush you from hiding for your water. What's their leader like?
The leader is an infamous outlaw.
Perfect.
And they like to use rifles.
Totally.
So it's what's her name from Mad Max?
I saw it.
You never seen the new Mad Max? So good.
I know everyone's like, oh, it's an amazing movie. Yeah, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, you would love the shit out of it.
I just liked how they get like bandit types, like fungal ridden maniacs, business like thugs, ghoul clan. You know, I really enjoyed that.
So good. I I mean, I didn't expect scantily clad women to make sense, but like the gentleman robbers and like the like you said, the ghoul clan, so good. The roll tables in this, like we said, like it shines in a way that like this is a fun way to have lore in a world without writing me a fucking book. If you want to write a book, publish it and say, this is a book associated with this setting. I actually have games that have novels written in the setting, and that's fantastic. But for generating lore, this is so much fun.
Yeah. And then, you can, the next tables are just rolling NPCs and like conflict within the bandit group. Which is very interesting if you want to expand upon that, but it wasn't really necessary for what we were doing. After that, Bounty Hunter Camp, and then the Cracklemont Den, is just more locations, which are once again all really, really great. We just don't need to go through all of them. So
yeah, that's right. Grave Hegemony Camp is one I did look at and I really, really enjoyed, just because. So we talked about this a little bit, but the Hegemony are basically like the people that think they're really in charge. They like, and not only that, they're like in charge in a way that like they rule elsewhere because ships come and go. We know this already. And basically it says that Varn is the least desirable position, and patrolling the interior of Varn is the least desirable thing to do. So this is garrisoned by the most mutinous, untrustworthy soldiers of the group of people that think they're in charge of everything.
Yeah,
and I love that there's a camp of that.
Positions, you know, they send the misfits there, you know.
So they're the worst of the worst, but they think they have authority. So they're basically cops, you know.
Well, are you saying this is an anti-cop show?
No, not at all. So yeah, what else we got?
I think we're on to adventures.
Yeah, I mean, it's more stuff, right? Just like trade posts.
Like, there's Rex. There's you saw the trade post. Vaults.
Vaults.
Which are
did you go through
important.
Vaults?
I did not go through Vaults.
So I dug through Vaults a little bit, and I do feel like it's important to touch on these because the game is called Vaults of Vaarn, and these are literally the Vaults of Vaarn.
Yeah, they're the Vaults.
So I did touch on that a little bit. I'm all about making
that map. I have no end game in mind. I just want to make a bunch of maps, you know?
So the Vaults of Vaarn are subterranean ruins that riddle the blue desert. Crucially, these vaults will always contain Exotica, the far future treasures that PCs are searching for. I don't know if you played Destiny or Destiny 2, but when they added in those little secret hidden things that you could like find the symbol of and go into, I can't remember what they're called. This is what it reminds me of. So it's advised you create these beforehand. So basically it gives you a
Did we not play Destiny together?
We probably did. I don't know. But Destiny 2, I don't know, sucks. But so anyway, so basically the vault is like a 5-room dungeon. You can make bigger or smaller, but there's a system here to create that. So like 1 through 6. So you attach hazards to rooms 2 and 4. You put Exotica in the 5th room. You have 5 rooms to do stuff in. You add an NPC. You write up an encounter table with a list of 6 active creatures and whatnot. And then number 6 with a map, an encounter table, and a reward. You're ready to play and then run it this way. So basically scattered throughout wherever you go, you can find these vaults that will always contain Exotica, which means this is how like they will always be able to level up a character when they find these vaults, and they're scattered everywhere and have like various different things to it. So basically, I don't even know what you would do if you did like a point crawl. I would just drop like 5 grains of rice and be like, that's a random vault, you know?
I was gonna say I would probably, if I did not roll a 19, I would always sub at least 1 out. It kind of depends on how many dice I roll. If I roll 6, which is like it says roll 5 or 6, I would sub 1 out. But I was thinking about doing a big one and rolling like more than 6, and I'd probably sub out 2. I'd probably put them nowhere near each other. So
yeah, the map is such a good mechanic, and the climate mechanic is so good too.
It's so absurdly like good. Yeah.
Roll 60-20 real quick.
Okay. I've rolled a lot of 16s.
Okay, so this is your vault.
Entrance. Okay,
yeah.
So 16 for the first one. The entrance is infested with bats. 16 for the second one. It's also incredibly cold. The tunnels are incredibly cold. Originally, this was a bioweapon research facility. Room A has an erratic sparking arrays. Room feature A Room feature B. Am I on the God? I'm like scrolling down, losing it. Like I had flashing warnings in ancient language, and
Nice.
then the vault hazard is magnetized ceilings.
That's what's up.
There's stuff
You
flying
synth.
out of your pockets,
Boom. Yeah.
Oh, you have a synth character with an iron finish like I do.
Boom. Zoop. Yep, you're crawling across the ceiling, buddy. So there are. It's a D20 of each one of those. So the number of different, and none would be. Some might be similar, but none will be the same. And I really love that. That's really cool. And that's that whole section, right? So next we're getting into section 4, which is I'm going to say Noman, which is basically it's the biggest city in Varn. Right. So this basically comprises the entirety of zine number 2. The whole zine is basically re-put into this book. So we are not going to touch on that, but I'm just going to hit on the highlights of why it's important and what makes it really interesting. So it is a gaudy jewel of Varn's southern Badlands, the city of 1,000 shaded bazaars. So it's got this really cool thing called like the Blade, I believe it's what's called, or the Apex, is this jutting thing out of the city center, right? And then at the very top of which is the consul Lornrot's Mant. So long story short, the city is the biggest city. It's important. It's got a lot of bazaars and things like that. But what it really runs on is water and the water debt. And you could visit the city for a number of reasons, literally for any reason you can imagine, to visit the biggest city. Like anything you seek, you can find in the biggest city here. But the whole thing runs on the water debt that is controlled by the Water Baron and Kamula. The Baron's aquifer machine stands at the base of the apex. So basically, everyone here gets to have water tokens so that they can drink from here, and that's what makes the city sustainable, is this massive aquifer, and the Water Baron controls all of it. So imagine anything you get from that when you have a Baron that controls a complete need of things.
It's always good. It's always good to have a single person on top. That's why we should cut taxes for the rich. In fact, you know billionaires shouldn't be taxed at all, like church.
You know what they should do is go in submarine. So, but you know what this really reminds me of too a bit, and I would play a little bit of this as, is Trigun. This has a lot of Trigun aspects to it too that I really love a lot. Yeah. So basically, the Water Baron controls the aquifer. You build up the water debt. Everyone gets a certain amount. You know, if you're poor, you drink from public fountains. If you're rich, you get it filtered right to your house. I will say the Water Baron does have a butting heads relationship with the new hegemony, because again, the new hegemony thinks they control everything, but the Water Baron has a self-destruct mechanism in the aquifer. So if he ever dies or gets taken prisoner, it'll just blow it up and the whole city will dissolve into nothing. So what they have done to come to an uneasy truce is, any of the hegemony soldiers and people who ever come in can drink for free or whatever, and they don't fuck with the Water Baron, because he'll just blow shit up and leave the biggest city on Varn to fall into utter decay. And that's really Noman as an overview. But what you get for like the next, I don't know, like 80 pages or 40 pages is the districts with a breakdown of each one, which the sites that you see there, a little explainer for it. Not going to go into all of that. You get the Noman Factions, which are the Barons, militias, and stuff like that, and also like how to join a faction, what's expected of them, the benefits they get from it. There is and a section here on whether you're an ally or a villain, which I really, really love a lot. There's House Lonrot, which is another faction, and whether they're an ally or a villain. There's the Hegemony Legion, whether they're an ally or a villain. Basically, that's how it's a list of all the factions and how they're used as an ally or a villain, which I really, really, really enjoy how they break that down. Because I feel like you get a lot of factions sometimes, but to really specifically break it down to like basically half a page of like ally or villain and which one it works for is a really great way to do it. Cruising through the rest of the factions, because there's a shitload. There's a lot of things you can do in Noman. I feel like a whole campaign could resolve around just being in the city and exploring maybe around the outskirts of it and coming back to it, which is, I mean, again, probably a whole thing. There are roll tables for cartels and houses and merchants and all sorts of stuff, just as good as all the rest of the things that we've done. Roll tables for urban shrines, goods and services, philosophers guild stuff. I mean, guild roll tables, Noman miscellany, which is NPCs and groups and locations and all that kind of stuff, structures. Oh yeah, here's the street merchant tables, which are massive. Mercenary tables, pit fighters,
tables galore, really.
Yeah, it's really fantastic how much they do here. There's a whole table for gangs of criminals. Go away, why aren't you going away? And then is that the nope, taverns, and then there's a section here on changes in Noman. Basically, like the city evolves, and every time you come back it could be a little bit different, so there's a lot of stuff going on there as far as that's concerned. And that is Noman. It's a lot. It is a huge chunk of the book.
And
so
yeah, it is. It's a great section. That was a really good section. And like, I know we're just scrolling through it, but there's so much good stuff in there. Like the Crimson Court, I really enjoy, which is like the gladiator lawyers of Noman. Yeah, and the factions are cool.
Yeah, the factions are really dope.
Some new jackals and do some crime. Yeah, and now we're getting to adventures, and we're gonna just really touch on one. They're all good, as is everything else in this book. And it's cool because the first adventure is the one we're gonna touch on. The Head of Briaris. Construction was never completed on Project Briaris, but the aborted Colossal's grimacing visage is a well-known varnished landmark and the subject of many problems. The pink arborescent structures that protrudes from the broken skull is an extreme example of the rampant growth that afflicts poorly maintained pseudoneural networks. Yeah, so this adventure takes place in a massive construct skull that was built for the logistics. It says it was built for war in the way that like logistics are what wins war. It was a big brain. It was a big head built to hold a big brain and a big mind to make big decisions. But was abandoned and then was infected with like almost like a they call them like pseudo neurons, like red neuron growth that reaches through everything, all the hallways and corridors, and you really don't want to touch it. I just thought that this was a very, very Varn like location. I guess it's not like an adventure is. There are locations, and making through there's a lot of really terrible stuff that you can run into. But I just really like the imagery of the giant skull with like essentially like these like nerve ending like growing out of it. Yeah, just very classic future past kind of stuff, you know?
Yeah, it
technology
feels
of the
super
great
Varn.
age. Yeah,
absolutely.
Other than that, there's like several other locations. There's how would you say this next one actually? Egan?
I would probably say Egan or Eigen. Yeah.
Okay.
Or Eigen. It depends on if it's Jin with the G, like the gross drink.
Yeah, which is a trade settlement. There's Itaka, which is one of the what's that movie again?
Oh, biodomes.
It's one of the biodomes that we touched on. It's cool that they bring it back here. And then there's the tomb of, I am gonna mess this up.
Nausicaan Ra.
Nausicaan Ra, which is like a gigantic stone slab carved in the likeness of some guy that like spews forth like sand. But yeah, another just like really good, weird Varnian landmark. But yeah.
It's really cool because these adventure locations, some of them are like I feel like the first one was like pretty small, but like this one has like an interior map, and so does the arcology.
Right.
So it really is a mix of like locations versus like, and this one even has like adventure hooks and stuff to it too. So it's a really nice, cool mix. And that's pretty much it. The last 2 pages are these big blue pages that are damn easy to read. And God, I wish the whole thing looked like this. It's so and that blaring white just destroys your eyes after reading fucking 180 pages of it. But Appendix A and Appendix B. First, Appendix A is the Titans of a Faded Age. So basically, it says that like people love the concept of the Titans. Titans rose and fell, and what the Titans basically are described here in this legend is there are 7 of them, and they're very like the Titans of Greek mythology. Like there was Kronos, which is the first one. There's a Titan of Memory, a Titan of Orbits, a Titan of Earth, all those kind of things. And basically, this is just a breakdown of who those 7 Titans were, and what their jobs were at the time. And then the Appendix B, which is the last page, is just the various tongues of Varn. The first one being the hegemonic standard, which is, again, the new hegemony thinks they rule everything, but no one really speaks hegemony outside of Noman. And then there's Varnish, which everyone else fucking speaks at least a little bit of Varnish. And then a lot of the other ones have various languages. And that's fucking Varn. It definitely, to me, I feel like in a very, very good way, it channels a lot of, and I think this, I mean, I know that this was out before Electrum Archive, so I want to say Electrum Archive channels Varn in very, very good ways. But I feel like this is almost a bit of like also in a good way, like a mini kind of Ultraviolet Grasslands kind of, because UVG is like a million fucking pages.
Yeah.
But I would throw this into the same.
It has a lot of relation. Yeah,
I would throw that into the same kind of like
another
science sphere. Weird science sphere. As I would put Troika on the edges of that, but I would definitely throw this into UVG and Electrum Archive. If you like any one of those 3, you'll like all 3 of those, and in a very good, fun way. This is a very good, fun game. So why don't we kick straight over to the review real quick, and let's get going on this. So again, So we're talking about the omnibus version of the book, not the combined zines, right? Like that's what I specifically want to talk about here, because we're talking about the book, right?
Right.
Okay.
We're not talking about the zines.
Okay. So art. So again, for those, if this is your first time watching, thank you, welcome you. Basically, we break. We try to, in some way, shape, or form, quantify the games that we review, so that there's at least some basis for you guys to understand what we talk about and what we like. A lot of it is extraordinarily subjective. So it's 5 different scores, 5 different metrics with a value of up to 10 each. 5 is considered bang average, 10 is considered perfect. The first is art and style. It is the art, quality, quantity, and all of that in the book, but also like the style of the layout and basically all of the visuals in the book, right? And then there is the layout, but that is more about the readability, usability, navigation. It's how well you can read it and how well you can navigate the book. I wonder if we should switch this to like literally visuals and like readability. I don't know. We'll talk about it. And then there is rule set, which is if it is a new rule set, is it good? Do we like it? And if it is adapted rule set, how well is it adapted? How much does it make it its own? There's originality, which is does all of this exist? And this is across all things, in art, in lore, in setting, in rules, everything. Is it original? And if it's not super original, is it done in an original way? And then there is value.
Is it inspired by or a derivative of, like X?
And how derivative is it? And then there is value, which is bang for your buck, not just the cost of the book, but also like what more do you get for it? Are there a ton of adventures? Is there a third-party license? Are there generators? And the value of the book too. So art and style. Thoughts?
Let me pull up my little page by page. So there's great art in this. In fact, I love the art in this. But it's definitely not an art book. I feel like there's at least art, like at least every 2 pages. Yeah. I'm scrolling through. There's very few, because there's so many roll tables that even on the roll table pages, they have like page ender art or like little blocks here and there. It's a pretty good amount of art, and I really do like the style, and it really pushes that whole like weird, not quite whimsical, weird vibe. What are you thinking for this one?
So I like it. I think for I think we said the same thing, maybe not for Mouse Rider, maybe for a previous one before. Maybe it was like Black Sword Hack or whatever. But like, I feel like once you hit a number of pages, like it would be really difficult to go beyond like and especially with how dense this fucking book is, because again, the font is like maybe size 8 and it's like 100 and how many fucking pages? Like, it's a decent sized book. So to condense that much information into it, I feel like it has a lot of art. I feel like it very rarely has a section
where
it
has a good amount.
Yeah.
You know?
But I feel like I love the style of the art, and I feel like there's very rarely any spots that miss like where it could be a spot art, like a big glaring white thing on the page that isn't filled by a piece of art that mints its way. My issue, I will say my issue just in general with the quote unquote visuals, and we talked about this before, is
the monochromatic nature of it compared to the zines.
Compared to this, like it kind of hurts my soul a little bit, because if this was all it was, I think it would be fantastic. The fact that this previously exists, it currently exists, and it has this beautiful, vibrant colors. Like, when I think Varn, like, cool, I think that, again, this really speaks to the blue desert. But I think as far as the fact that, like, this is a colored Fa Nomad, and the Fa Nomad does not exist in this. I understand that color it costs a lot to print and all that, and I do appreciate that. But when we're talking about objectively in the world, I do feel like, once again, like, there is a loss when you go from this to like really refining this to this. I feel like something is lost in the in that translation to something that is, again, maybe slightly more academic. You know, it is an omnibus for a reason. You're gonna lose stuff when you put that much stuff together. It just kind of, I don't know, like, look at this cassette tape. Like I love the color fade here.
Those are all very fair points. My thought process is that I'm not going to count it off for not looking like the zines. I'm going to rate it as a standalone.
I mean,
would I rate the zines higher for art if we did those as individual reviews? Probably. But I'm reviewing this book with you right now.
Yeah.
I don't know the zines. I haven't really gone through them. I've only really ever gone through the omnibus. So do you think that this has more art in it than Shadow Dark?
See, here's the thing: is we sometimes talk about quantity a lot, and I think that's such a unnecessary. Like, that's to me, that's
just
not
talking about
the primary
that. The
metric.
quality of this art is beyond Shadow Dark. I'm just pulling up reference points for art and layout to decide what I think the score is.
Oh yeah, the thing with Shadow Dark art is, I think there's more full page art in Shadow Dark, right?
Right.
But to me, like, that's a fun bonus. What I really want to see from a book is not just like if you could put all the art in the middle, just to have to be able to flip like 15 pages. Like, what I want is that when something feels like it needs art to describe, I want it, and I don't want big white glaring open empty pages, and I don't think that exists in this book at all.
This book has no glaring open pages. In fact, I think there were even a couple of like open spots in BSH when we were there weren't even in that. I think this is very comparable for me. I'm thinking this is an 8 for me.
Comparable to Black Sword Hack?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think this is almost exactly the same. And I think what we described there too was that this is the perfect amount for a tabletop book of this length. Like, I think that, again, big pieces are good, but to me, what's more important is the little spot art that makes you not have like a big empty spot that feels empty. So yeah, I completely agree. I think that this, to me, is feels exactly like Black Sword Hack in the same. What did Electrum Archive get?
Is it on our Instagram?
It's probably probably. I don't know. I haven't updated it in a while.
Electrum Archive, I got a 7 actually.
Why did we give a 7 to Electrum Archive? Maybe it's just a shorter book or something. I feel like maybe we're just having a bad day on that.
Shorter for sure.
Because I feel like that should probably have an 8, and if that has an 8, I feel like this is between the 7 and an 8. I feel like I'm between a 7 and 8 on this pretty solidly. I mean, the difference with Black Sword Hack is it's all pure color inside. I mean,
right?
Yeah,
I think this might have more art though.
Yeah, overall. But again, like, when we talk about, which one did you think is as an art or visuals that you liked better overall between layout and art and stuff, Black Sword Hack or Vaults of Vaarn.
Okay.
And again, I feel like the monochromatic nature of it like makes it like nice and consistent, but I feel like that's where there's a bit of lacking for me.
Call it
7.
There you go.
Okay.
Layout. We're gonna take some hits. We're gonna take some hits to layout.
Yeah. And again, I feel this is
good.
No, go for it. No, I want to explain layout. I feel like we should almost rename it because I think the layout is fantastic in like the style of the layout. That's why I'd say the art and style section. But this is almost like we said, like readability, usability, navigation,
functionality.
Functionality. Yeah.
Yeah. So the digital copy, is kind of hard to read. Harder than the actual physical. It has no hyperlinks, although it has a lot of inline page references. It does have bookmarks, but there's a whole section that has a lot of tables in it where none of them are part of the bookmarks.
Well, also the character creation section, each like Truekin, Kakajin, none of that is, and that has tables and stuff in each section too. None of those are individually bookmarked either.
Yeah, this is where it's going to be where this takes a hit, because this was the most frustrating part about this, because it's so good in like every other way. I mean,
this is really one of the more frustrating. This is one of the more frustrating navigation ones we've read in a while because of how dense the book is and how good the book is. I just did not like the layout of the table of contents at all.
Yeah. That too.
And then it's a complete lack of navigation tools outside of basic bookmarks in the PDF. So now let's talk about the physical. The physical is gorgeous, and it does have a bookmark. So as far as like what you want from a physical, I do really like that. I think that so it's not completely, if it didn't have a bookmark at all in physical book, I feel like it would take a
and the physical one's easier to read as well, right?
I honestly, like, it's just, I don't know what it is about the PDF, but the font choice and the font color, it is very difficult. I mean, again, it's first world problems in that I can just also blow it up. But as what we compared objectively to other things we've read, the font choice, the size and the color of it makes it a more difficult read. You know? When you get to those final 2 pages in the back of the blue and you feel like you just like came in out of the sun, you know, it's a little bit harder. Maybe just like a little bit of a bold or a little bit of a bigger size. I don't know. The PDF just the font needed to be just like a touch thicker. And I think the printing actually made it feel thicker in the book. But yeah, as far as pure navigation, if we talk about if this is functionality, I mean, it's pretty basic. I mean, you know, if we're talking 5 is supposed to be bang average, to me, this is probably like a 6.
I think this is a 6 for me too.
Yeah, like it's missing almost the entirety of all digital tools, and even within that, like it's difficult. It's more harsh to read on the eyes and stuff than most of the books we've read.
Leo, hit me up. I'll do your inline hyperlinking in this book. I love this book. So
there you go. Rule set. Okay, so we talked about this before. A big chunk of it is unabashedly knave.
Yeah, and it's a stripped down knave where it's a little bit lighter. And I like it. So, you know.
Well, not only I feel like at its core for the dice mechanics and stuff, a lot of it is knave and like the stat generation stuff, but the wounds and healing are so fucking fun.
So
completely changes the way the game is going to work. Yeah. And what was the other thing that was like a completely different thing? I think even just like the way that it's not inventory, it's something else works right off the bat too. It's not saves. The item slot stuff is a little bit different. Wounds and healing. Yeah, I think maybe that was a primary thing, is that, and then also you have to throw in like the mystic gifts, the exotica, the cybernetics. I mean, those are all mechanics of the game
even
that
the procedures for running the weather, the procedures for building your own custom like area but like region. Yeah, I mean, really, really good stuff. Like really great, incredibly well done and clever.
Clever. Yeah. I again, a lot of the core individual, like core bits are knave, but there is a lot more, I think, that is added on to this. Like, you can't not call it a hack, because it literally is. The character, all the dice mechanics are basically knave, but there's so much more added on that is so fun and unique and clever and interesting that it's one of the best, it's one of the most well done hacks that I've seen before, and one of, if not the best knave hack that I've read, I think.
What you thinking?
Fuck, dude, it's so clever. I don't even. What did we get? I loved Black Sword Hack as basically a really good black hack. We gave Mouse Ritter. We gave Mouse Ritter a 9.
Mouse Ritter a 9.
For similar reasons, in that at its very core it is into the odd, but it adds a ton of non-into the odd stuff on it that really elevates it above and beyond. I would say that Vaults of Vaarn is to knave what Mouse Ritter is to into the odd, but Vaults of Vaarn has a level of sophistication that Mouse Ritter doesn't go for, because it is designed to be easy to run. I would say that I would say they're incredibly similar. I would probably give this a 7.
I'd be comfortable giving this a 9. I think there's a good use of name and enough other stuff going on here that is genuinely standalone and clever. And I'm like, oh yeah, I love this tremendously.
Yeah, I can't think of a mechanic in the game,
that's
and this is why
implemented.
Or even just unnecessary. You know what I mean? Like, so I will say the only tweak, and I really wish that both Knave and this would do it, is the explanation of the whole like bonus advancement situation thing, because that is a confusing part.
Right.
Other than that, there's nothing in the thing where I've read through things before where I'm like, I like that, but I'm not going to use it. I didn't really read anything in here where I wasn't like, not only am I going to use all of this, I love it. So I think 9 is great for that. So originality. So it's not. I mean, similar things exist already, primarily like UVG as far as the TTRPG sense is, and a million other games that use like Psychedelic Desert. I mean, you could even pull off the adventure. You could take Acid Death Fantasy for Troika, right, from Luke Gearing, and you could run this in Varn in a heartbeat. It'd basically be the same thing. So as far as like the core fiction, I don't think there's necessarily a ton of I mean, it's not space where there's a million of those. Like Acid Desert isn't the most common thing ever, but it exists in that. I mean, there's even Dune Sandworms in here. And I think at its core, it is a knave hack. But what are you thinking?
I mean, I'm incredibly biased because this is super inspired by a lot of my favorite things, both video game wise and book wise and game wise.
But that in and of itself reduces its originality.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think we're reinventing the wheel here. But I think it uses a lot of those parts and puts them together really well, and it all meshes really well, you know? Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to blow it out of the water, but I think this is like, you know, it's not, it's not. I don't want to like insult another game that we've done, but it's not another game that we've done that we gave a 5 to. You know, I'm
originality. Yeah.
I'm thinking like I think this is a solid 6.5 to 7 for me. You know.
Yeah, my mind went to 7 on this. I feel like once again, there is a really nice correlation between Mouse Ritter in this in a lot of ways, in the way that they adapted into the odd, and then the way that this adapted Knave. But this definitely has that heavy kind of like UVG aspect to it. I'm good with the 7 on this one. And then value. Okay, so Vaults of Vaarn is 35 euros on Games Omnibus. Which, and then I think it's roughly like $35 if you find it at like one of the if you're in the States. I think it's roughly about the same. So I will say that Games Omnibus prices their stuff extremely competitively. I really, really like it. I mean, you know, TTRPG creators and stuff deserve more money, but $35 for this book is really, really nice. We talked about before, like the print quality, the quality of the hardback. One thing I do now, here's the thing is, I love me a good cloth bound book, right? But I feel like I can't touch them because my finger oils and dead skin and shit are going to do that.
I get that.
So if not a non-cloth bound book that has like a really nice matte finish to it like this, where it's not glaring in the sun and I can actually see it. Beautiful finish on the book, beautiful embossing. The pages are thick and feel really fucking nice. There is a bookmark. The quality of this book feels like like if I'm gonna get an omnibus, this is what I want as far as the quality of the printing. Yeah, Games Omnibus puts out quality printed stuff. For 35 euros, I think that's a fucking steal. I really genuinely do. I think on top of that, a lot of this stuff, like the SRD and everything like that, is available free on the Vaults of Vaarn website, which is literally Vaults of Vaarn. I think you can just literally go to like vaultsofvaarn.com. Yeah. So you can go to that. There is a Patreon that you can back from Leo to get more exclusive content and stuff like that. It does have third-party licensing. Christian Sorrell, Meat Castle, dropped in. Yeah, it's just some guy whose name is on every project of 2023.
Everywhere.
Yeah, there is this generator that was put out called the Varn Atlas, which literally creates like
it's the creation it's the regional like generation process. Yeah.
And so that's really fucking fantastic for this. I think there's a lot of good content for it. You know, I think it's got a solid bang for your buck, and the fact that it's got the third-party licensing and the additional content, the adventures, things like that, I think it's a solid value. I don't think it's fantastic.
I think personally the regional generation thing that I know I went over, and I'll mention a million more times, I'm sure, but like that alone, there's hours there. Like just throw more dice on paper, add more spots, you know, like there's so much. Like, what's the name of the city? Is it Noman?
Noman, yeah.
Noman, like, give me hours of time you could spend in Noman. You know how much there is there? Like, there's so much. Yeah. I think this is. What do you think, Ryan?
So here's the other thing about Vaults of Vaarn 2, because I'm going to go to the itch for Vaults of Vaarn, right? And if you go to, it is GRACUL, Graculus Droog, right? For the Vaults of Vaarn. If you open up Vaults of Vaarn 1, 2, 3, and the Adventure Pack, also check out Blood Heist, another fantastic game from Leo. Z number 1, free. Z number 2, free. Not free. Pay him when you download this, but you can just download. It's name your own price. Number 3, name your own price. Number 4 is the only one that the Vaults of Vaarn Adventures is right now. It's at $1.99. So you can theoretically get, much like Mouse Rider, everything that we just talked about. I mean, pay the person money. If you're unable to, though, the recommended price is literally only set to like $2. Pay more for that, but you can get the physicals and stuff like that. So digitally, much like Mouse Rider, it is completely free. I don't think it has as many resources available as Mouse Rider does, but I'm sorry that whenever you can have an entire game for free, your value is through the roof.
It really is.
I mean, I would probably give this a 9. I mean, and the only thing that made Mouse Rider like the 10 instead of this being a 9, and I still think maybe this is a 10 and Mouse Rider is all those other table or the generators and stuff that had. But how do you not give a 9 or a 10 to a free fucking game?
Yeah. I mean, so why do you think this is a 9 if Mouse Rider is 10?
Well, no, I think I tried to revise that. I mean, if the game is free, how do you not give it a 10? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I think if you can get the game for free, it should just be a 10. Like,
and not only that, it's the quality of all of these zines too. Although, once again, if you're gonna download it and you're able to, you should pay money, right? But fantastic. I mean, I mean, the reason we talk about value is because of the barrier to entry, especially in 2023, where the average rent in the United States is 100% of the average paycheck. Some people are unable to pay to play your game, and if people can't play your game is not going to get played. So, I mean, making it free like this, or name your own price, can't get much better than that. Total score 39.
Nice. It's in good company.
That feels about right to me.
Yeah.
And honestly, the only part that really brought it down at all was just the navigation and function tools. If this had better bookmarks and hyperlinks, this would easily be one of the highest rated ones we've ever read. Like, this would be up at like 41, 42, everything else. It really does just come down to 0 hyperlinks, like the difficulty of specifically reading the PDF, and all of those things. It just comes down to really just the digital functionality. And I would be happy if suddenly, and listen, you don't have to, but we had 2 or 3 people reach out and be like, hey, after we listened to that, we went back and navigated it. Thank you, Dead Halt. If you suddenly added hyperlinks to it, this score would immediately jump up. So, I'm happy with this. Are you happy with this?
I am. I think I'm really happy with this. So
okay.
Personally, this is on like this is one of those that is like, I love it. It's very much a me game, and I'm excited to play it.
Yeah, this is very much a you game, like hardcore.
I really enjoyed this episode. I'm like, fuck yeah.
Yeah. This is, again, long story short, at the end of the day, great fucking game. Buy this, buy the zines, buy the omnibus. I mean, this is one of those ones that is like a hard, like, Leonard with a bag of chips. Like, this is a
also
buy,
games omnivorous.
Fuck.
So good.
Everything is a fucking banger. Everything is banger. So what else we got coming up?
What is next week? What did we have?
Well, not next week. Tomorrow, actually, we have a special episode.
That's right.
Our third host, we'll say, like our by proxy, by number of times they've been on, Kirby.
It's actually like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde situation. I turn into Kirby.
There you go.
Yeah.
You just get like 6 inches taller and grow hair, and then it's Kirby. But Kirby's going to be on tomorrow because they just released the Dead Horse Volume 1, which is a ttrpg adjacent magazine, and the first one is themed around horror. It is out for pre-order right now. Kirby's going to come on. We're going to talk about that, but we're also going to go over a game called Squishy, which is a super rules-lite horror game that's really, really fun and enjoyable. Has some fun adventures. Exalted put it out. So we're going to read through Squishy, and we're going to talk about Dead Horse, the primary editor of which was, again, just some dude, some Meat Castle guy, but they're going to be on tomorrow to do that. And then I think we decided for Sunday, I think it's going to be 5:30 again, and we decided to do I thought as I said it that it would pop into my brain, but it didn't. So it is going to be this game that is called, really excited for it. It's a really fun, interesting one. It is going to be...
It's Bloodbeam Badlands.
Bloodbeam Badlands.
Wait, Ryan. Thursday.
What? Oh, fuck me. Wow, do we have a lot coming up. On Thursday, at 11 o'clock Pacific time, we're actually also going to be going over Eco Mofos. Not going over, we're going to be doing a creator cut where the creator, David Blandy, and the artist, Daniel, are going to come on, talk about Eco Mofos, which is funding right now on Kickstarter, and then do an actual play with myself, with Hunter, and with Daniel, the artist, all running through an adventure run by David Blandy, who did Eco Mofos, who also did Lost Eons, which is one I've wanted to talk about forever, but now we're doing Eco Mofos, both box sets right there. Real concise finish up here. But long story short, tomorrow Squishy with Kirby. Thursday Eco Mofos with I believe it's the copy paste co-op. And then on Sunday we're going to be doing the Vampire Western Bloodbeam Badlands. Super excited for that. That is our episode. This is a great game, and you know when the great game is good, you know what you should do?
You should buy the fucking game.
Buy the fucking book. Buy the fucking book. All right, you guys all have a wonderful day. Bye.